Well, here we go. We're streaming away. For those of you who are just listening in, my name is the Canadian Commie, Jonathan Sanderson. You can find me at thecanadiancommie.com. I talk to my YouTube channel while I do this, so if you're wondering who I'm talking to or what comments I'm reading, that's what I'm doing. If you'd like to join in, I live stream Tuesday, 6 to 9 p.m., maybe even later. We sing songs, we read articles, we talk about the world and the decline of Western civilization, and, I don't know, collectively cope with it. I'm going to start by singing a song. We all need... Oh, hold on. We here at the Canadian Commie are very professional. We all need more kindness in the world. We all need more kindness in the world. You can look high and low, but there's no place left to go. We all need more kindness in the world. We all need more laughter in the world. We all need more laughter in the world. You can look high and low, but there's no place left to go. We all need more laughter in the world. We all need more loving in the world. We all need more loving in this world. You can look high and low, but there's no place left to go. We all need more loving in the world. We all need more kindness in this world. We all need more kindness in the world. You can look high and low, but there's no place left to go. We all need more kindness in the world. Yeah. Woke CIA drone pilot over on Twitch. Good to see you. DM, good evening, John. DM writes, good evening, John. Happy belated Labor Day. I worked over Labor Day, so to me it was no different. That was sort of the great irony of Labor Day is that I work every holiday, right? Wage slaves don't get vacations. But happy belated Labor Day to you. Sorry to hear about your downsizing the stream to just Tuesday and Wednesday. Nope, just Tuesday, my friend. Just Tuesday. And you shouldn't be sorry about it. I think that it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a positive change. I think it's going to be a positive change for the stream. I think it's going to be a positive change for my life. So, Eggs D asks, good to see you, by the way. New guitar? Nope. Same old, same old. Same old, same old. She's getting old. I think I'm going to replace her tomorrow. I think I'm going to finally do it. I've got a little bit of scratch. I've saved up a little bit. I think it's time to get a new guitar. This one has been a true and stalwart ally. Definitely has been seen me through thick and thin. Been with me for over 20 years. But she doesn't carry a tune like she used to. Right? She doesn't have the same kind of warmth that she used to. Yeah, Rusty, just once a week now. Just once a week now. And I think I'll play a different song. If you guys have any requests, by the way, you feel free to put them in. I'm going to try to do more singing on the live stream, I think. Focus a little bit more on the music. These times they are uncertain, of that there is no doubt. and nobody can tell me quite what it's all about. The heartbreak and the loneliness, the chaos and the fear will make even the strongest cry. I wish my ma was here. A young man on a battlefield fights for a rich man's gold. The bullet cracks into his spine, he knows he won't grow. And as the tears come streaming down, at once his mind goes clear. The war was fought for nothing, he cries, I wish my ma was here. A lively story well in hand, a joke to soothe your soul. When it came to arguing, she'd forgive and let it go. When I cried, she held me, told me it's okay, my dear. And as we face these darkened days, I wish my ma was here. And as we march into the streets, as all the righteous do, we'll raise our voices to the skies. They cannot stop the truth. And as we tear their structures down, we'll raise a victory cheer. We made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. Yeah, we made the world a better place. I wish my ma was here. Well, DM says, I missed the walk-around streams near the cemetery. Rusty agrees. Well, that's a big reason why I'm cutting back on the live streams, right? Like, I found that just doing the live stream was taking so much time, and it was taking so much of my energy and so much. And, like, anytime anybody would say, hey, John, I've got an idea for how to help your live. Why do you try this? Why do you try that? Why do you try this? And my answer was always the same. Okay, cool. When? At what time? I only have so much energy. I only have so much time, right? And so it just kind of came to the point where it was like, okay, cool. If I want to do literally anything, if I want to do literally anything else, if I want to add thumbnails to my videos, if I want to do the walk around thing, if I want to do anything, literally anything, then this is what it's going to be. And this is what it's going to be. And I think I'm happy with the decision. I'm still sort of settling into it. So I'm still getting my feet on it. Last week was the first week that I did it. But I just came to realize that I don't think that doing 3 live streams a week is an efficient use of my time. And is the most effective way that I can go about this. And I know that there are people who are disappointed in that, but I think it's going to be good for the health of the show overall. Austin, good to see you. Well, let's start the stream today, guys, with... I always try to start the stream by making fun of these psychopaths, right? Who dreams this crap up? Kevin O'Leary slams new rule that allows employees to ignore their bosses after hours. Is your boss texting you after work? Do you get a please fix email while you're on vacation? In some countries, you can now simply ignore all of these notes once you're off the clock. Australia recently joined the ranks of countries like France, Spain, and Belgium, bypassing a right to disconnect law, which came into effect on August 26th. This legislation allows employees to step away from work-related communications outside their official working hours, ensuring that personal time remains personal. While this development is welcoming news for many workers in Australia, not everyone is on board. Shark Tank personality and investor Kevin O'Leary is one of the outspoken critics of the legislation. This kind of stuff just makes me crazy. It's so dumb. Who dreams this crap up is my question. Why would anyone propose such a stupid idea? He said in a clip he shared of a recent interview with Fox News. See, Kevin, let me explain this to you. Some people have things called souls, right? They have souls that require nourishment, right? I know that a ghoulish, psychopathic vampire such as yourself, who only gains his sustenance by sucking energy away from others, doesn't understand that. But some people need to take breaks and have time off and disconnect from places of work, from vampires like yourself, right? Blood-sucking ghouls who only really exist to siphon energy away from others. Milo, dude, you gotta calm down. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Here's a good boy. So it's difficult to explain this to people like O'Leary, right? Who don't actually have souls, right? Who genuinely think that the purpose of life is to exploit other people, and that the person who exploits the other person the best is the best. I love this. As it continues, I love that Yahoo Finance, whoever's reporting on this, honestly, is reporting on it as if this is serious, as if this isn't just a total psychopath jerking himself off in front of all of us. O'Leary's concerns. Oh, I'm deeply concerned about what Kevin O'Leary thinks is a concerning thing. As an investor and entrepreneur, reminding everybody that Kevin O'Leary made his money by essentially defrauding a company, right? He literally conned, I think it was Mattel. It was either Mattel or Hasbro, I can't remember which one, but he conned them into buying a piece of property that has been called the worst deal ever made. So literally, his claim to fame is being an effective con man. He basically conned a company out of millions of dollars and got away with it. O'Leary places great importance on the seamless operations of a business that he has nothing to do with, right? Like, Kevin O'Leary doesn't really know how to run businesses. He's a con man, right? That's all he's ever done, is he's conned people. That's his big claim to fame. That the people who work with Kevin O'Leary are the true saps. Nobody should be working with this guy. He has voiced strong concerns about employers' ability to reach their employees in urgent situations, highlighting potential issues with the right to disconnect laws. Yeah, sorry dude, we're not slaves. I know. You want us to be slaves. I know. What happens if you have an event in the office and it's closed? Tough shit. Or you have an emergency somewhere and you have to get a hold of them at 2 a.m. because it affects the job they're working on. He questioned. Tough shit. How about that, Kevin? Tough shit. Like, sit down and take a breather. Like, those of us who, like things like, our lives and have souls and spirits don't give a shit. Right? Like, I know that you care, but nobody else does. Incidentally, we all know for a fact that you're not the one who's contacting anybody, right? You're the one who's going to, like, when Kevin O'Leary is coked up at 3 a.m. and is like, I gotta contact everybody! I've got a great idea! Fuck you. That's what this is all about. Is that Kevin O'Leary is offended that in a coke-fueled state, he can't just randomly text people and be like, you didn't text me back, you're fired. Like, that's what this is all about, frankly. Yeah, why don't you go there, Kevin? How about that? If employees start ignoring their boss's calls, texts, and emails outside of work hours, an after-hours emergency might have to wait until the next business day, which O'Leary finds unacceptable. 9 times, no, not 9 times out of 10, that's way, way too statistically low. 900 billion, 900 million, and 9,900,000 times out of 100 trillion. The emergency is you, Kevin. The emergency is the boss. That the boss is having a meltdown, that the boss is having an emergency, the boss has done too much meth, the boss has done too much ketamine, right? And the emergency is dealing with you. And employees are basically just going, yeah, I don't think I should have to deal with them as they have a meltdown emergency caused exclusively and only by them, that literally the solution is just go to sleep, boo. Just go have a nap, right? That's what's actually going on here, is that Kevin O'Leary wants to do drugs and then contact people and annoy them in the middle of the night. And honestly, a guy like Kevin O'Leary, who is like this soulless, ghoulish vampire, just abuses people, right? Like, these people will contact people after hours just to fuck with them, right? Because they're psychopaths. That's what they're doing. And Kevin O'Leary is whining at us because he doesn't get to abuse people anymore. That's what he is. So, I think I'm good shitting on Kevin O'Leary, because it just reminds me, like, who would ever think to, like, go on national news to complain about this? Like, I can understand sitting around with your psychopath friends. I can understand, like, sitting around with your ghoulish other vampire people and being like, oh, our slaves are fighting back. They want rights. Oh. But to go on national television and just openly take your mask off and tell everyone that you're a vampiric ghoulish vampire, like, go fuck yourself. Like, real simple. Just go con some people out of some money, right? Nobody gives a shit about you, dude. You are a loser. Like, that's the thing that I think Kevin O'Leary doesn't really understand, is that he thinks he's a winner and he's like the biggest loser I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's like a parody of a rich person. He's just like a cartoon villain. He's like a Mr. Burns character. Like, it's just ridiculous that this guy thinks that we should respect him. I can't possibly begin to understand why. In the meantime, transferring over to actual real work, right? To something that's actual serious, and somebody who's actually doing real work. This is something written by Chris Hedges. You guys know me. I'm a big fan of Chris Hedges. Richard Medhurst. I don't know if you guys know who Richard Medhurst is, but he essentially does what I do, but at a much larger scale, right? On the arrest of Richard Medhurst. Bread Bunny, stick around. I'm gonna read your comment, and then I'll talk about it. But it's a very short article. The arrest of the reporter Richard Medhurst, who has been one of the most ardent critics of the genocide in Gaza and Israeli apartheid state, at Heathrow Airport, is part of the steady march towards the criminalization of journalism. Something all of us, including Medhurst, understood lay at the heart of the long prosecution of Julian Assange. Where the norm was for police to detain people for questioning under Schedule 7, Medhurst became the first journalist in Britain to be arrested under Section 12 of the Draconian Terrorism Act. After being taken into custody by 6 police officers, having an electronic equipment seized and questioned, he was placed in solitary confinement for almost 24 hours. He was released on pre-charge bail. He will remain under investigation for at least 3 months and faces the prospect of being charged with an offense that could carry a prison sentence of up to 14 years. This arrest is about paralyzing his work, and the work of all of us who call out to Israel, or who call out Israel for its mass slaughter. It is an ominous warning to any who stand up for Palestinian rights. It is designed to have a chilling effect on reporting that elucidates Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza and increasingly the West Bank, as well as the active collaboration in this extermination of the Palestinian people by the US and UK governments. Medhurst's arrest has nothing to do with fighting terrorism, at least for those who still believe journalism is not terrorism. If we do not vigorously oppose Medhurst's arrest, if we do not denounce the use of terrorism laws to attempt to silence journalists, including the Scottish journalist Craig Murray, Grey Zone correspondent Kit Carenberg, and the late David Miranda, who is working with Glenn Greenwald on the files leaked by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden, Medhurst's arrest will become the norm. Like, this is where we're going, right? Like, we're taking the mask off. This is what we're up to. Bread Bunny says, "Hi, John. I got a question for you that's really going to start some conflict." Fantastic. Let's light this fire. Let's light this fire, baby. Let's make it happen. So, do you have any objective evidence to defend you so confidently objectively stating there are, without a doubt, parallel universes and an infinite amount of them, no less? Oh, this is like a big forever ago kind of question. So first of all, let's be really clear. There's no such thing as for sure's in the conversation, right? There's no such thing as like 100% guaranteed. This is absolutely 100% what it is for sure, right? Joe Anthony writes, of course we have free will. We have no choice. That's great. That's great, dude. Bread Bunny writes, furthermore, what does it matter? Isn't it kind of mute, like the theory that makes everything in our lives a simulation? So you're touching down on like my general, like my, like sort of my theory of existence, right? That's what you're talking about here. And you can't really detach one thing from another, right? That I tend to see how I view reality as kind of a holistic thing, right? Like it's all one idea, right? And so I struggle with decompartmentalizing things, right? Like, so talking about like multiverse or talking about any of this kind of stuff. For me, the bottom line on the whole perspective is that I understand that we are all part of a singular energy, and that singular energy is on the journey of attempting to figure out what it is. That's what this is. That's what we're doing here, right? That nobody really, like, it's sort of wild to me. Like, if I could suddenly have a magical power that galvanized the entire populace and had them all focus on one singular idea and put us in a single path and focus on that idea, it would simply be, why are we here? What the fuck is this? Doesn't anyone else think it's outrageous that there's this enormous, massive, large-scale, gigantic, all-encompassing, it affects every part of your life, mystery? There's this mystery that's right there. You can't miss it. You don't know why you're here. No one has any idea why we're here. We only have theories and ideas and thoughts, and bad ones at that. And instead of focusing on that at all, we're all just scrabbling around doing a bunch of dumb bullshit that doesn't matter at all. Like, at all. Like, 0%. In fact, I would argue that it's negative 100%. Like, I think that this culture, this society where we are now is at negative 100% in terms of what we're doing and how we're operating and how we're treating one another and our plans and our ideas and our thoughts and all of that. Because the only thing that I can come up with about why we exist and why we're here and what the purpose of any of this is that the energy itself that generated us doesn't know. And that it's generating us. It's creating us to discover that the question to that answer. And it doesn't know. And it doesn't understand itself. That just as we go through a pattern and a path of self-exploration, so too is it going through a path of self-exploration. Right? Like, this is a very esoteric, very sort of large-scale kind of talk. So within that exploration, I open up the idea, like, the energy that spawns us, the energy that exists, is by all account, and by any measure that we can look at, seems infinite. Like, it seems infinite. Like, we don't know where it came from. We don't know why it's there. We just know that it is. And there it is. And it seems like it's forever. And when we get into conversations about the infinite, right? then you start to get into conversations about parallel universes and parallel realities and parallel existences. And that we exist, like the people who named this existence, this reality, right? The Enlightenment figures who came up with the term universe, they called it universe because uni means one, verse means word. And they understood this is one word from who? From the mouth of God, right? That's why it's called universe. That's the etymology of the word. And so they were running on the idea that, yeah, there's a bunch of these, right? That we exist in eternity. And we just simply can't get our mind around that. We can't get our mind around eternity and what that means. And so you ask a question, right? Yeah. So why? Why does it matter? Like, what does it matter at all, right? And I don't think that, like, the multiverse shit, I don't think matters too much, right? Outside of the idea that, like, okay, if it is actually eternity, if everything is possible, then everything is actually possible, right? Including the things that you dare not to think of. Including the things that you dream of, but you talk yourself out of, right? The vision that you have of yourself in the future is real. And you can do it. You can get there. Like the crazy thought that you have of yourself, yeah, it's possible. And of course it's possible. Not only is it possible, it exists. And it could be you. You can do it. Right? That it's not fantasy. If you can imagine it, then it's real. And you can pursue it. And you can make it happen. And you can go for it. Right? And you can try. Because there is a universe in which it's real. And it might as well be yours. Like... people have a very, like, mundane view of imagination, right? The abstract space, our imagined selves, right? Dreaming, visionaries, prophets. We have a very dim view of these people, and we do everything we can to destroy them. We make sure that they're poor, and we make sure that they're on the fringes of the society, and we make sure that they're discarded. The system of capital requires it, because if there's a bunch of people imagining something other than the system of capital, well, then they can manifest it. And that's extremely dangerous to the system of capital, because the system of capital requires its existence. It requires the subservience of the people. It requires a mundane, single world view that says that capitalism is the only possible potential thing that exists. But it's just false. It's just false. It's just not real. Of course we could do anything else. Of course we could do a billion different things. We could do an infinite array of anything we wanted to, if we all got together and decided to do it. There is literally no limit to what we could do if we all just looked at one another and said, should be how it is, right? We should just do a different thing, right? And for all the crying and bitching and protestation from the psychopath class, the Jordan Petersons and the Shapiros and the O'Learys and all these guys, who are dead set trying to convince us that there is only one path. There's only one path, and all deviations lead back to that path. Well, if a bunch of people started to realize that, no, there's an infinite possibility in front of us, and that this rut that you're trying to stick us in, you're only trying to stick us in the rut because it benefits you, because you're a psychopath, then we could pull ourselves off that rut and go anywhere else. Literally anywhere else. And how do I know? Because it exists. Because it's real. Because there's already people, like, there is a version of myself that is doing that right now. That is literally off in the forest doing fucking whatever. Right? Just any flight of fancy you've ever had, any thought, any idea, any vision, any dream you've had of yourself, well, that exists. And you could do it. Right? We could all do it. We could all come together and we could all follow that path and we could all go down that thing and say fuck you to these losers. Enjoy your decrepit mansions. Enjoy your Bugattis. Enjoy your bullshit, right? Enjoy your funny money, We're leaving, and we're going to go do something else. You run the place. Good fucking luck. Right? And I think it's important for people to have an understanding that this reality could actually be as adventurous as all that. Like, we could become completely ungovernable. We could just become a group of people who are absolutely willing to go off the rails at any moment. Like, there are ancient societies and feudal societies where the serf class and the slave class would literally all come together and they would just walk out the city. They'd just be like, bye, and they'd leave. Right? And they just leave the city to the managers and to the people and say, okay, cool, you run the place now. Bye, see ya. We're all going out that way. Get fucked. Like, get completely wrecked. So I do think that there is a point to, like, and let me be extremely clear about something. It doesn't fucking matter if it's actually, like, hardcore real true, right? Like, that's not what it's about. It's about envisioning and imagining the possibility of living in a different type of life, right? It's about actually using your imagination and using your abilities and using the skill that humans have. Like, that's the thing that I think is so disgusting about the system of capital. I think the thing that is so disgusting about the system of capital, the thing that makes me reject the system of capital as hard as I can possibly reject it, is that human beings have an incredible power. We have this enormous, amazing power at our fingertips, at the tip of our brain, that we can utilize and use at any moment. We have the ability to enter an abstract space, communicate with one another within that abstract space, and then manifest from the abstract space into the real. And we can do it. If you have two people in a room together, you can do it, right? You can do it by yourself. You can do this thing that's an incredible thing, that's absolutely astounding that we have the capability to do it. And the system of capital says, yeah, but you got to do it for a banker, or for money, or for some billionaire. Or it'd be better in many cases if you just didn't do it at all. Like, capitalism crushes the human spirit, literally, and says, unless it's for money, then it's worthless. Yeah, no wonder our society's in decay. No wonder we're in this catastrophic downward spiral. Because we have this superpower. All of us have it. Every single person has it. And we're told constantly, and it's reinforced constantly, that if you pursue that, you're a fool. You're an idiot. Why didn't you just get a job? Why do you just train for something a capitalist wants? Yeah, of course you're poor. You cared about the human spirit. Like, it's despicable. This culture deserves to be washed away. We deserve Donald Trump. We deserve all of it. Because we've taken a look at the gift that we have. We've taken a look at the power that we have. We've taken a look at this absolute, just, brilliant. Like, you could have been born a chipmunk, man. Like, you could have been born just like a pug. You could have just been walking around being like, I like nuts. Nuts are great. I like nuts. That could have been you. Right? Maybe it was you. Right? But now you're here, and you have this enormous capacity, this enormous ability, so much so that most of us, when we're not busying ourselves with this ridiculous system of capital, actually engage that in art and books and movies and video games. We seek out, feed this thing, please feed this thing. Well, you can do it yourself. You can do it just yourself. And people do. How many times have you been, like, in the shower and you've just had an argument with somebody in your head? For no reason. How many times have you just been walking around and you're just, like, making up shit in your brain? Right? Happens all the time, constantly. Because that's our fucking superpower. And so when I get talking about things like multiple dimensions, and when I get talking about the more esoteric nature of our reality, and asking questions like why we're here, It's because I just want everybody to start using this fucking thing. Because that's how we get out of the system of capital. Right? We don't get out of the system of capital by like working for the capitalists and doing what the capitalists think and thinking the way the capitalists think. Right? We get out of it by utilizing our imaginative selves, by utilizing the superpower that we actually have, by pursuing that path, and by telling these capitalists to go fuck themselves and to just stop participating in their garbage, because they're clearly garbage. Like, I've got an unbelievable array of things to say about how garbage these people actually are. Right? Azron, good to see you. Larry Morrow, I don't know if I've ever seen you here before, Larry. There's absolutely no inevitability as long as we are willing to comprehend what is happening. Like, I think Larry, I think I get what you're saying. Like, most people react to reality. Most people are reactionaries, right? That this happened and I just react to it. I get hungry, so I go eat, right? No, very few people actually try to take hold of their existence and actually try to assert themselves in the world in any way at all. Most people are just walking around reacting to stimuli, right? Like, Donald Trump is a reactionary. He has no real thoughts or ideas. He just reacts to what's around him, right? And then he gets feelings, and so he reacts to them. He's like, man, I need a break, so I'm going to go golf, right? I get hungry, I eat. Like, and most of us operate that way. And if that's the way you operate in a system of capital, then all you're ever going to do is say, yes, sir. Because that's how you actually survive in this system. Content writes, oh, hi, John, but writes John like Lon. I had a girlfriend a long time ago who called me John, but she said it like that. John. She said it like that. Oh, I don't know if that's clarifying, Bread Bunny, but Bread Bunny writes, okay, it makes sense. In a way of articulating the creative potential more than actually talk about the certainty of infinity. Like the Bible using magic as metaphors to engage creativity. In a way. Like, look, we are not going to understand this place. That, like, let's just be real. Let's just be real about what it is to be a human being. Humanity is not going to understand what creation is. Like, we're just not going to have that. Right? All of us are going to die, and that is just not going to be part. Like, there's no score screen at the end that's like, oh, by the way, like, you're and so all of it is about engaging our creative minds and engaging ourselves and really trying to find out, like, if the purpose of this reality is not to discover the purpose of the reality, then I don't know what the purpose of the reality actually is. Right? Like, we're here, we don't know why, we should figure it out, and we're definitely not going to figure it out working for capitalists. Like, that's just 100% the case. We're definitely never going to figure it out if this is the system that we're using, because the system of capital does everything it can to ensure that nobody ever does that, because that doesn't make them money. And in fact, they would say that the pursuit of such a question is useless, is pointless, even though it's pretty obviously the point. Like, in my view, like, it's pretty obviously the point. Like, I find it odd that people are walking around being like, what's the meaning of reality, or what's the meaning of life, or what's the meaning of existence? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's this enormous, overwhelming mystery that's right in front of your face that you can't miss. How could you possibly miss this? Right? And you somehow think that we're not supposed to ask the question? You somehow think we're not supposed to get this figured out? That really you think your life is just to wake up and go work for some asshole you've never met. You really think that. These people are going to get to the end of their lives, and they're going to be in the old folks' home, or homeless on the street, more likely, with how things are going. And they're just going to be like, I don't understand what the point of any of this was. And I'm just going to be like, yeah, bro. Like, that was the point. The point was to make sure that nobody asked that question. Because if anybody actually asked that question, we'd all immediately realize, oh, these capitalists are worthless. Housing should be free. Food should be taken care of. We should all be participating in the food and shelter generation to the degree that we have to in order to maintain it, to free up the maximum amount of time for the species to invest ourselves in totality as much as we possibly can towards the question of what is this? What the fuck are you talking about? We're just here and we don't know why. Let's just amuse ourselves, I guess. What are you, fucking crazy? What are you, fucking out of your mind? Like, we're all just basically jerking off to death. That's essentially Western civilization in a nutshell. Just every single day we wake up, go work for people we hate, come home, watch some bullshit that we all know is bullshit, but it's escapism and we just need it because, oh my God, this thing is ridiculous. What are we even doing, right? Fucking jerk off to porn, go to sleep, wake up, do it again. Got a day off, you're probably hungover because you got slammed the night before because you just got to black this all out, right? Like, everything we're doing is so worthless, so pointless, so beyond ridiculous that we do everything we can to just delete it. I don't even want to process it. I don't want this to become part of who I am, right? And why are we acting that way? Because we know that it's over there. Like, we know the thing that we should be doing is right over that fucking hill. We know it's right over there. We know, right? But instead we're stuck in this bullshit. And we would love to be not. We'd love to be not. Right? And then one day we'll all wake up and we'll all be old and we'll all just be like, oh, I guess we missed it. Like, this is our chance. This is our only chance. Right? And if we don't have the opportunity, right? If we don't have the opportunity to meaningfully pursue what is this place and why are we here? If we don't have the opportunity to meaningfully pursue it, then the meaningful thing to do is to set the society up so that the next generation can, or at least can hew closer to it. And to pass the baton down the path so that we're constantly taking food and shelter and all of the base necessities of human life and shrinking them down to the smallest possible burden. Just absolutely, so that literally most people don't even consider it. It's just not part of their life. Or if their participation in it was part of their life, it was in the early days and everybody was doing it, and now it's over and we're living our fucking lives now. What do you think we're here to do? Well, let's go to the academy of finding out what the fuck is going on, where we're actually all rewarded for being there, as opposed to what happens today where you go to the academy of what the fuck's going on and you're a fundraiser, essentially. You waste all your time calling people, give us money, and then they build a fucking football stadium. Like, does anybody else think that this whole fucking thing is mental? We could all literally be sitting in a field, just sort of figuring it out, just sort of living and existing, and asking questions and having meaningful conversations. Instead of that, well, I gotta go shuffle those papers for that guy I never met. His job's pointless, too, you know. I actually automated most of it. Like, what the fuck are we up to, man? Anyway, that was a big, long diatribe, man. Like, we could do so much better. We could just do so much better than this. Right? There's just, and the best part, this is the best part, there's nothing stopping us. Like, the only reason we don't is because we have this fear of a system that a bunch of losers set up. And of course there's the psychos with guns. But like, eventually this thing decays so badly that people are going to be like, well, I'm going to fight that fight. And the reason why I'm going to fight that fight is because this place sucks. And if I can die making it better, then that's good. And that's usually how it goes. Jeff writes, good to see you, by the way, Jeff. Everyone, please hit the like, share, subscribe button. Join the Patreon. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. You can find the Patreon, patreon.com/The Canadian Commie. Dragon Fruit writes, good to see you. Definitely a change, only seeing you once a week. You bet, Dragon Fruit. So get it while you got it. Get it while you got it. I can already tell you, just doing this right now, like doing the live stream right now, I feel so much better. Like, I feel so much more refreshed. I feel like I have energy to actually talk. Like, I feel like I'm not, like... Even though I say the same things over and over again, I just don't feel like... I'm just glad I have energy again. That's all. I'm glad I have energy again. Like, that's all. I can feel my brain. I can, like, feel... I feel like I can make music again. Joe writes, you'd think how obvious to most people it is that profit-seeking above all else is regressive, but it isn't. No. Capitalism is the end of human history, right? It's the reason they do propaganda, dude. Like, propaganda works. Jeff writes, I'm not in a field, but I'm frying bacon, and right now, this is the meaning of life. Yeah, there you go. Bread Bunny writes, honestly, John, everything you're saying is exactly what my intuition has felt since I was a child. Well, there you go. I've got a direct line to your inner child. That's how I felt about Marx. Like, that's how I came to Marxism, is that, like, I read Marx and I was just like, oh, this is literally everything I've ever thought. Straight up. Bread Bunny writes, I remember looking around thinking, why are y'all listening to any of this? It's obviously all stupid and invalid. Yeah. Like, it's just, it is. It's just garbage, man. Like, when I was a kid, I was in school, and I was, like, in grade 10, and I realized this was all nonsense. Like, my grades reflected it. And the thing that everybody said of me in high school is, it has so much potential. Yeah, potential to be obedient. All I had to do is start saying yes, sir, and start doing what I was told. Right? And I would have been a fucking great student, right? Still went to university anyway. Right? Like, it's all fucking ridiculous. You know what? I wrote a new song. I feel right now to play it for you guys. Hold on. Let me get myself all fixed up here. Let me see if I can... Oh, sorry, Milo. I gotta uproot you. Yeah. Oh, well. You can stay put, buddy. Scrambling, got me fighting for a bite to eat. There ain't nothing, there ain't nothing, there ain't nothing here for me. Can't go wandering, can't go searching, can't go searching for the mystery. There ain't nothing, there ain't nothing, there ain't nothing here for me. Where's our father? Where's our mother? Can't they hear their children scream? There ain't nothing, there ain't nothing, there ain't nothing here for me. There ain't nothing, there ain't nothing, there ain't nothing here for me. Whoa. Yeah, writing that song was like a real turning point for me. I always love this one. We got a fella here by the name of Can Am BRP. Move to Cuba then. Can you maybe think? Let's all pause for a moment. Can anybody think of why a person might not be able to move to a place where they don't know anybody, where they don't know the local language, where they don't have a job or a place? Can anybody think of why they might not be able to move to such a place? Like, this is how you know that capitalists, like, basically don't think. Right? They just don't actually have brains. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing that you really don't understand. As somebody who's pro-capitalist, right? That means you have no ethics or morals or principles. Just nakedly, you're a capitalist. You worship money, you worship yourself, you worship chaos. That's just the naked truth of your position. For those of us who don't, we actually care about our friends, we actually care about our families, we actually care about our communities, and we would like them to improve. And we'd like to help them improve. Right? We're not just going to abandon ship when things get tough, the way that capitalists do. Right? And that's the hard truth. That if you actually looked at your position, you'd see pretty clearly, it's not an attack, it's just a statement of your position. People who are pro-capitalist have no principles outside of the worship of the self, the worship of money, and the worship of chaos, what you might call freedom. You're just upset that somebody's calling it out for what it is. Right? That capitalism is a system that's bereft of morality or ethics outside of the worship of money, the worship of the self, and the worship of chaos. That's what it is. And that's why you just can't understand anything else. Because, like, how could you understand something like empathy or compassion? Right? How could you possibly? You're a capitalist. Jeff writes, do you think Turkey will leave NATO? Turkey is in such a weird position, dude. If Turkey did leave NATO, that would be massive. It would actually be massive. Turkey is in a position, and everybody kind of understands it. Turkey is in a position where they, like, play all sides, and they kind of have to. Right? Like, it'd be absolutely bonkers to tell Turkey that they shouldn't do any business at all with Russia. It's like, are you kidding? We literally share the Black Sea with them. Like, we have to negotiate with them. Like, we can't not do business. Right? And same thing with Russia. It'd be like Russia being like, you can't talk to Greece. Like, what? What are you talking about? Right? Like, Turkey is connected to the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea. Like, it's in this geopolitical position where it just has to be, like, constantly looking, and like it literally shares a coastline with Israel. So, like, Turkey has to make decisions very, 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 very softly. Can writes, you just sung about scraping money. Why not work? Duh! I have 2 jobs, dude. Duh! That's you. 2 jobs, bud. I work 2 jobs. Duh! 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 Capitalists are stupid. You sound very stupid. Like, dumb. Please leave. I don't know why capitalists feel the need to embarrass themselves constantly. Just literally like, well, just go get a job. I have 2 jobs. I work 2 jobs. 2. I literally work 10-hour days. It's just so stupid. And, like, presumptive. Like, capitalists are so dumb that they actually think they know more about my own life than I do. Oh, I should just get a job. Oh, I never actually thought about that. I'll get that later. Oh, you're right. I should have just got a job. Of course. It's stuff like that. This is the reason why the society is in decline. Like, nobody even, like, the entire conversation, Bread Bunny, the conversation we had about using your imagination, right? Using your capacity for thought, right? Expanding your mind and extracting, like, it just dies, right? Like, this is what I'm talking about. If you don't actually use your creative mind, if you don't actually use your brain, if you don't actually think, right, you end up with this. Well, you should just go get a job. It's what you should do. Literally everybody has a job, dude. We're all working and we can't pay the rent. Right? Do you maybe think there's another thing happening? Do you maybe think they're just jacking prices on us? Right? So back to Turkey. Turkey is in this really crazy geopolitical situation, right? Like, I think that if it left NATO, like, what does it benefit it to leave NATO? How the fact that it's in NATO is already like a passage of history. Like, they end up in NATO mainly because, like, the Soviet Union's collapsing, right? NATO's the only secure thing going on anymore. So we're going to jump on to the thing that's stable. And incidentally, you know, it's better to be friends with these people than to alienate them, right? They're clearly psychopaths. Germany is nuts, right? Like, and Germany's at the beating heart of NATO. So better to be friends with them. But so does leaving NATO now? They asked to join BRICS. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, BRICS is not a military alliance. Like, NATO is a defensive military alliance, whereas BRICS is a trade agreement. So it doesn't actually offend, like, they can technically be in BRICS and NATO, right? There's nothing that says that they can't, unless the NATO membership wants to throw up fists. And so I don't know. I don't know which way Turkey will jump in this, because I don't think there's a win for them. Like, if they go to BRICS and leave NATO, they alienate NATO. And NATO isn't going to just be like, okay, right? NATO's not just going to be pleased with them. NATO's not just going to, like, leave them alone. You know? Like, there's pretty major security concerns about leaving NATO. If Turkey were to leave NATO, that would be bad news for NATO, right? Because the big concern for the NATO countries, the big concern for NATO, is that it's going to start falling apart, and it's going to become fractured, and it's not going to be able to sustain itself. And organizations like the EU and NATO are absolutely crucial for maintaining order and maintaining peace internally in Europe. Europe has a huge, long history of fighting amongst themselves, right? Like, even before World War II, Germany, France, Austria, Italy, Poland, Spain, like, these guys all fought each other all the time, constantly, forever. The fact that they haven't fought each other in a more significant way post-World War II is something of an aberration, right? So if NATO starts to decay, if people like Turkey start to bail on NATO, if other people start to leave NATO, then that's sort of a sign. That's a banging gong. It's a bell ringing that says, this military alliance is going to fall apart, and what's going to follow that? War, for sure, for sure. Like, Europe's going to fight itself again, because that's what Europe's always done, and it's not going to not do that, especially as they continue to permit Germany's existence. And Germany seems to be taking a pretty far-right turn, right? The AfD is gaining power in states, and the AfD is gaining more power throughout Germany. Germany's beginning to remilitarize. Germany is one of the major supporters of the genocide in Israel. Like, they're rebuilding the Reich. That's what they're doing. Pretty clearly. And if NATO starts falling apart, War will be shortly behind. Like, the UK is already descending into pretty naked open fascism. Like, it's not going to be a good scene in Europe. So in many ways, maybe Turkey should bail, just to be like, okay, you guys are getting to be a bit nuts. But that's a precarious position for Turkey, because Turkey's on the front line, right? This is a front line. And Turkey knows it, right? Like, the Ottoman Empire, right, used to exist all through here. A lot of what's gone on the War on Terror was actually to prevent the reformation of the Ottoman Empire, right? That the idea is, like, when American pundits say, you got to fight them abroad or you'll fight them at home. Well, what are they talking about? They're talking about the reformation of the Ottoman Empire, right? That the Ottoman Empire will come together and actually be able to form a navy and actually become a threat to the United States. So what are we going to do instead? We're going to go over there and we're going to make sure that never happens. We're just going to destroy the place. Which they've done, right? And sure, it's made everybody over here hate America, but America was like, yeah, they hate us anyway. And we're not going to do anything to smooth that over. So, fuck them. So this whole thing is just like, if I was Turkey, man, I don't know, dude. They got to step lightly. They got to step very, 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 very lightly. And that's sort of my end thoughts on it. Because, like, I do not envy Erdogan. I do not envy the Turkish people, the position they find themselves in. I think they've done a pretty reasonable job during the war on terror period of maintaining their own integrity. And a big way that they have maintained their integrity is by being a NATO member. And so stepping out of NATO, which I just feel like you're asking for trouble. I feel like you're asking for trouble. Because NATO is psychotic. Like, they're just a group of total nutjob psychopaths who will absolutely pull the switch on just some of the most Nazi shit you've ever seen. Like, the destruction of Libya was outright just naked Nazism. Just straight up, we're just going to blow this place up. Fuck you. Bunch of brown people, get fucked. No, you're absolutely not going to create a pan-African alliance. That's absolutely not going to happen. So if I'm Turkey, I'm just like, okay, don't want to bring that down on myself. Right? Not interested in that. Part of the thing that I think might be a saving grace, like what's happened in Yemen very recently, I don't think America can win a war anymore. I don't think they can win a war. Like, the Yemenis are defeating the Americans, right? Like, I don't think the American military can field an army anymore, because I don't think anybody in America is willing to fight in the military anymore. Not seriously, right? Like, they're not going to be able to put like 100,000 troops anywhere, because who's enlisting? I'm not. And if I knew anybody who was, I'd be like, what? What's wrong with your fucking brain? Like, and the people they are getting are not the best and the brightest. Because the best and the brightest understand, yeah, don't go fucking fighting these pointless wars that achieve nothing except make Raytheon richer. Like, what? Why would I ever do that? And the fact that the Americans are losing to Yemen, that the Yemen blockade on Israel is working and has worked. It's been successful. And the Americans can't stop them. Like, if America can't stop Yemen, they're not going to stop China. They're not going to stop Russia. Like, they're not going to stop any of that. So, maybe there does come a point where Turkey just starts to think, like, yeah, I mean, America can, like, put in some thugs and, like, fund some right-wing crazies, right? Maybe try to do a coup or something, but we're aware of it. And, like, we've got our security personnel, and we understand how that works. So, they can't beat the Yemen. What makes you think they can beat us? Like, when they rode in and destroyed the shit out of Iraq, they actually knew perfectly well what Iraq's capabilities was, because they sold them the weapons. Right? A little bit different. A little bit different. Anyway, that's all a big long-winded way to say I don't fucking know, dude. Turkey's in like a real pickle. A real dilly of a pickle. Like, if I were in today's global climate, I would want to be living like here. You know where I'd really want to live? Mongolia. If I was in today's political context, right? Mongolia. Just happily nestling into Mongolia. Can has decided to chime in again. You're American? Nope, I'm Canadian. It's called the Canadian Commie. There's a Canadian flag right there. What are you stopping? I don't understand your question, dude. Maybe ask a more intelligent question, okay? Dragon Fruit writes, anytime I try to talk about Israel, YouTube blocks my chat. Yeah, welcome aboard. Andrew, good to see you, my man. Hello to you. What's the name of the last song you performed on this stream? There Ain't Nothing? There Ain't Nothing. That one? It's called There Ain't Nothing. And I wrote it. That's my song. Yeah, that's my song. I wrote it. It was literally the first performance I've ever done of it. I give myself a C-. I think that was not a good performance. So, but first time playing it. I might capo it. I might mess around with it. But the shape of it is there. The shape of it is there. I hope you enjoyed it, my man. Can writes, socialist Canadian and you have nothing. Like, maybe try to expand your brain a little bit more and think a little bit more esoterically. Right? Like, maybe dwell on the song a little bit. Maybe think of the lyrics a little bit more, okay? Like, really try to think your way through it. I know it'll be tough for a capitalist. Jeff writes, I'm still waiting for plastic in my balls. Oh, yeah, dude. What a silly song that is. I think I'm just happy to ban you, dude. You're too stupid to talk to. Like, maybe if you worked, you would have more. I have 2 jobs, dude. Like, please stop being such a stupid person. You're just too stupid to talk to. Just another capitalist moron coming in here showing everybody how stupid capitalists are. Please leave. You're too stupid to talk to. Gabriel writes, Afghanistan, Yemen, Iran, Saudi Arabia, America can't stop being embarrassed by the Middle East. Like, it's because their strategy is not going to work, right? It's because their strategy fails. It's just so demonic and so abhorrent and so evil that even their own people, who are largely just like vapid, right? Like, most of America is just basically vapid and empty. But even they understand that that's crazy, dude. Like, that's just nuts. Like, even if you put it within the context of the American idea, right? Which this guy Can did a perfect job of showing us how empty capitalists are, right? And how unintellectual and how incapable they actually are. That if you've bred an entire group of people to be selfish, money-worshipping chaos operators, right? Well, the last thing they're going to do is go eat a bullet for you because they're completely self-interested. So even within the ideology of capitalism itself, their military ambitions die, right? Rusty Shackelford, once you work 3 jobs at the same time, the ghost of Ronald Reagan will appear and do the trickle-down rain dance. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's the thing that these dim-witted capitalists aren't really understanding, is that, like, they're religious fanatics. Like, that's the thing that I think they don't really understand at all, right? And they don't understand it because they're too stupid to understand it. They're so bought into their own bullshit. They're so bought into their own stupidity and their own way of thinking that they don't understand that what they actually are these religious fanatics, right? All you have to do is worship money, right? Just worship money more, bud. Just get a better job. Worship money more. Right? Just sacrifice yourself for money and that'll be good. Just throw yourself into the free market, the chaos system, and make more money and everything will be better. It's just religious fanaticism at the highest possible level. There's just no acknowledgement of reality there. It's literally no different from saying, just trust in Jesus and Jesus will see you through. What you need to do, everybody, at this moment, praise Jesus, is you need to look into your heart. You need to look into your heart and you need to find inside your heart the desire to praise the Lord Jesus Christ and his barrelfuls of money. And once you praise Jesus Christ and his barrelfuls of money, then he will bestow upon thee riches unseen into the world. Praise the Lord Jesus Christ and his big barrels of fucking money. That's what these guys sound like to me. They're just empty. Just nothing there. Jeff wrote, I wish we had a TV license fee. I would opt out. CBC is worthless on foreign coverage and honest reporting of domestic issues. Yeah, like the major sin that Western media perpetuates is that they do a fine job of showing you snapshots, right? This happened. This happened. This happened. But they won't actually show you a complete narrative or a complete story, right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to manufacture a narrative that doesn't exist, right? And even their little snapshots that they show you don't really line up with their fake narrative that doesn't actually exist. So their job is to create out of whole cloth, just create out of thin air, a fake narrative that doesn't actually exist, while simultaneously also showing you all the evidence that you would ever possibly need to debunk and disprove their very thesis. But they are running on the assumption that nobody's actually going to take the time to do that. Nobody's actually going to have the time or the effort to do that. And certainly nobody's even going to have the position. No, we're the great, powerful white race. Why would anyone even question that? And so it's not actually difficult to do. Right? You just need to begin with the premise of they're probably full of shit. And once you begin with the premise of they're probably full of shit, you can see pretty clearly that, yeah, they're totally full of shit. And so the reason why people come to people like me is because I'm giving you a narrative using their own information to be like, yeah, like we're a settler colonial country doing settler colonialism. It's real easy. It's real straightforward. Andrew writes, about Turkey, they are playing a double game. Yeah. I think they have ambitions like the Ottoman Empire had in the past. They applied for BRICS, but they are in NATO. But the thing is, like the thing I'm trying to sparkle into people thinking about it a little bit more is that everybody knows that they have to. Right? Like, just look at them. Just look at them. Like, I just feel like if you looked at Turkey and you looked at the situation they were in and you thought, and you genuinely said out loud, yeah, they got to pick a side. It's either us or them. I'd just be like, really, bro? Like, I just don't think that's serious. Like, it's not that they are sitting there being like, and then we'll play both sides and pit one against the other, and then the Ottoman Empire will arise anew. Like, it's literally that they're like, okay, cool. So Iran is right there. Like, we share a border with Iran, right? So we got to negotiate with Iran, right? Oh, we're having a border dispute with Iran. Okay, we got to talk to Iran. Okay, cool. And then they turn around and like, okay, there's Europe. Like, there's Bulgaria, there's Greece, there's Romania. Okay, there's Europe. Okay, so we got to deal with them. We got to talk to them. Oh, fuck, we share the Mediterranean Sea with Syria, Israel, Egypt, Libya, Spain, France, Italy. Like, we got to talk to these people. We can't not talk to them. Right? And that's the position that they're in, and anybody with any sense in their brain would go like, yeah. Like, yeah. Like, they have to. They can't not. if you were to turn to Turkey and say, you should no longer communicate with Russia, Turkey would be like, what the fuck are you talking about, bud? What are you fucking talking about, bro? We have to talk to Russia. How do you think our boats don't run into one another? Like, I just think that Turkey's just in the middle of a shitstorm, and most people know it. Like, I just don't think you could be, like, I know Americans are pretty dumb. I know capitalists are pretty stupid. We just saw that today. But, like, there does come a point where you just got to be like, okay. Like, maybe a little bit of reason. Maybe a little tiny dollop of, like, critical thinking skills in regards to Turkey. Because I just think that them joining BRICS certainly isn't good news for the EU. Certainly not good news for NATO, right? NATO's not sitting there being like, oh, good. So glad that Turkey is noticing this enormous alliance down here that is erecting itself. But at the same time, it's like, how could they not join it? Like, how can they not? I think it'd just be so, like, if this was the world, for those of you who are just listening at home, I'm just focusing in on Southeast Asia, India, the Middle East. If this was the whole of all human creation, and this was it, this is where all mankind is, right? Turkey joining up with that? Yeah. Like, real straightforward, real obvious. But that's not the case. The case is that they got these assholes to deal with. That they have this land bridge where Istanbul is on that they've got to contend with. And they can't just ignore it. And they can't just ignore these guys. And so I'm just very sympathetic to the Turkish position. Like, Jesus Christ. And we all just know that the fucking EU is going to act like a bunch of dickheads about it. Right? Because the EU can't possibly, like, NATO can't possibly just be like, oh, yeah, that's a reasonable position, so we should move forward with prudence and discretion, right? They can't talk that way, right? Just take a look at how they acted in Ukraine. Like, they're just a bunch of fucking Yahoo cowboy nut jobs. We're going to go in there and spread liberal democracy. Well, when I look at the map of Europe, all of this is blue. And I look at Russia, and Russia's red. Red for the Soviets. And EU, NATO, we're blue. So they're red, we're blue. Ukraine is beige. It's not blue or red. It's not blue or red. We should make it blue. Let's go in there and make Ukraine blue. Oh, the Ruskies didn't like that. Oh, those Ruskies always up to trouble. They don't want Ukraine to have independence. Because we're trying to make them blue. Like, this is basically how the top level of NATO discusses this shit, for real. Because, like, anybody with a brain in their head, you want to see what should be happening? You take a look at Mongolia. Right? Russia and China both understand that Mongolia is a buffer state. They both understand that as long as Mongolia is independent and is doing trade both with Russia and with China and is left the fuck alone, then China and Russia are basically good. Right? Sure, we have this other border, and sure, we've got other concerns. Sure. Right? But we also have this buffer state that says, hey, Russia's not aggressing. Russia's not doing nothing. Everything's totally cool. How do we know? Mongolia is an independent state. Right? So they got a buffer state. And Russia wanted to do the same thing with EU, with Ukraine. Right? Well, they can't. Because these guys are idiots. These guys are fucking morons led by Nazis doing dumb shit because they're cowboy idiots. Like, so that's what Turkey finds itself dealing with. Like, if this was the world, and for a moment this was the world, just Europe, Turkey's basically just like, oh, I guess we're doing NATO. Right? But the world has changed, and it's expanded. So Turkey's got to make some other choices. Sybin writes, Israel keeps trying to drag America into further conflict into the Middle East. I don't know if the word trying is the right word. Like, America's in the Middle East. Like, it's like Israel is just like, What Israel's really trying to drag America into is more genocide. Like, just more crazy shit. I think Israel as a nation will soon be wiped out. Genocidal regimes like this don't last too long. Look at what happened to the Nazis. Yeah, I mean, I feel like reprisal is likely. Like, I can't give you a date, but just like, there's a 0% chance that Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Sudan, Yemen, Oman, Libya will ever work with Israel. And it's just a matter of time until America just withdraws its support, because that's what America always has done, right? There's just always been a moment in American history where America goes, okay, peace, see ya. Take a look what they did to Afghanistan not that long ago under Biden, right? They just finally cut their losses and said, okay, see ya. Taliban owns it. Like, literally everything America set up was gone in a week, and the Taliban took over. Like, same shit's gonna happen here, dude. It's just America's MO. It's just how they are. We're gonna go into Vietnam, we're gonna do Vietnam and everything. We're gonna set up a whole bunch of institutions for Vietnam. Oh, war's over, bye. Literally all the people that worked with the Americans were summarily executed. Just America doesn't give a fuck. They got what they wanted, they left. This is the same. Right? The millisecond, the literal millisecond, the Americans feel like, this is too much effort, they're just going to bail. And when that happens, these countries are just going to consume. They're not going to be nice about it. Right? Like, they're not going to be nice about it. AK writes, what is your take on the hostages executed by Hamas earlier this week? That's war, baby. It's just war, baby. I don't know enough about it to speak specifically, but just like, it's a war, man. Shit happens. Like, it would be nice if it didn't. Andrew writes, Turkey and Egypt are the most popular tourist destination in Russia. They supply Bayraktars. I don't know what that is. UAV? UAV is a type of vehicle, right? That's a personnel vehicle, right? To Ukraine, support Ukraine, maintain positive relations with Russia, and actively trade with it. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm talking about, man. Like, Turkey has to play all sides. So, like, why doesn't Russia say to Turkey, like, hey, we're going to stop trading with you if you keep trading with Ukraine? Because they look at it and they go, like, yeah, you know, like, they like, it's, Turkey and Ukraine literally share the Black Sea. Like, it's just too close, right? It's too close. AK writes, they were civilian hostages. Does that not show Hamas's lack of desire for peace? Oh, my man, AK, like, no, there's no peace. That's not going to happen. I think that any talk of peace between Hamas and Israel died when Israel assassinated, I forget his name, but literally the lead negotiator between Hamas and Israel. Israel assassinated that guy. Right? Like, it's over, dude. Like, there's no peace. It's not coming. Like, Israel is openly assassinating journalists, medical professionals, and then finally, literally the lead negotiator. So, I wouldn't be too surprised to find out that just Hamas was like, oh, we've got these hostages and we know we can't do anything with them. Right? We're never going to get a deal out of it. It's never going to be a real thing. So, what do we do? What do we do with these guys? They're just here. And very steadily, these hostages just become a liability to them. They just become something that's a problem for them. And they've got to cut their losses, and so they do. Right? And is that shitty? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, indeed, that is. But, like, there's no peace. There's no hostage negotiation. There's none of that. None of that's happening. That's over. That's been over for a while. Right? So if someone is actually trying to say out loud, well, Hamas killed some hostages, so that shows they're not interested in negotiating a peace. I'm like, what the fuck? Israel literally assassinated the head negotiator. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? AK writes, do you think the U.S. was involved in the assassination of the Hamas leader? Or do you think Israel acted alone? I mean, the United States, they are obviously involved because they're the ones that give the money, right? They're the pocketbook. But I think that Israel probably acted alone because it's completely against the interests of the United States to assassinate that guy. For specifically the reason I'm talking about, right? That the game that the United States wants to play, and the game that the United States has always, in fact, played, is we're negotiating. We're negotiating. Sure, it's a settler colonial project of extermination. Sure, it's genocide after genocide. Sure, it's a project of ethnic cleansing where the Israelis or the Zionists are coming in and just purging the land over and over and over again. Sure, but we're negotiating. That's always been the deal. That's always what the United States has done. That's always how they've acted. That's always what they've said. So assassinating the head negotiator from the opposition, from America's position, really goes against their narrative and really goes against the game that they're trying to play, which is to con as many people as they possibly can into believing this idea that says, oh yeah, we're actually interested in good faith negotiations. We're not actually interested in ethnically cleansing this land like we always have because we're America, right? No, we're negotiating. So I mean, America is obviously on the hook because they're, it was done with weapons provided by America, paid for by American money. Like, it's the entire thing is enabled completely by America. That if America wanted to end this thing, they could do it now. They wouldn't even need to wait for tomorrow. They literally could pick up a phone, make one phone call, and hang up and be like, it's over. And it would be over, by the way. Like, literally, no more money. Stop sending money. There goes your education. There goes your healthcare system. There goes your military. There goes literally everything that Israel's doing. Just straight up, yep, nope, yep, okay, click. And it's over. America could have done that at any point in the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And sometimes did. Like, there's a famous one where Reagan literally did that. They were fucking up Lebanon, and Reagan picked up the phone and was just like, if you continue, I will defund you. And so they stopped. It's just like, yeah, they could do it. Why don't they? Because they don't give a fuck at all. Like, Harris and Trump and all those guys don't give a fuck at all. It doesn't matter to them at all. They don't care. They just cash the check. That's it. Right? Kamala stands up and says, Israel has the right to defend itself. We're trying to negotiate a peace, even though they assassinated the leader of the negotiating team. Yeah, right. Okay, Kamala, just cash your check. Just fucking cash your check, dude. AK writes, what about Iran and Russia? They can end this war if they want to as well. No, they cannot. No, they cannot. The only force that can fully stop what's going on in Israel is the people who are funding it, right? And that's America. That's America all the way. Like, Russia can get involved. They can do military shit. Iran can get involved, and Iran has been involved. Like, Hezbollah is Iran, right? Hezbollah is like a third-party proxy that is very tightly tied to Iran, right? And so Iran has been involved, and it's not like Israel isn't suffering losses. It's not like Israel isn't suffering. It definitely is. And, like, I wouldn't be blown away to find out that Russia's been funneling support to Hezbollah. That wouldn't shock me at all. If I read a report that was saying that, yeah, Russia's funding Hezbollah, providing arms and weapons and, like, all support, all that kind of stuff, I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, for sure. But, like, they can't stop it, you know? They can't just, like, flip a switch and make it end. AK writes, they can stop. Are they not hypocrites? Who's they in that? I don't understand that comment. Sorry, AK. Jeff writes, rich people in New York City at the U.S. Open are drinking $10 million drinks. Yeah, eat the rich. Yeah. I mean, come on. No, it's just clownish at this point. It's just why when we get boobs in here, I hate that I don't hate it, actually. I love that I keep referring to these, like, dimwits who come in and try to defend the system. It's like, it's crazy to watch people still double down on this just, like, absolute obvious failure. Right? Like, it's literally like there are people like a building has burnt down, and a guy is standing there being like, we got to get to the top of that building. You're just lazy. Get to the top of that building. Just climb harder. And you're like, the building burnt down. And they're like, lazy. Like, that's what it feels like now. Iran and Russia, the countries funding Hamas and Hezbollah? Oh, like, yeah, like they could stop and just let Israel do a genocide. Is that what you mean? That, like, Russia and Iran could just pull everything back, right? Yemen could just stop the blockade. Oh, sure, yeah, they could all stop, and then Israel will just do the genocide, right? Is that what you're talking about? So, Elon Musk, from The Independent, suggests support for replacing democracy with a government of high-status males. The theory suggests that only people able to think freely are high-testosterone alpha males and aneurotypical people. This is a thing that Elon Musk actually said. Elon Musk has used his large platform on X to promote a theory that free-thinking Republicans could only exist under the decision-making of high-status males, and women, or low-T men, would not be welcomed in. On Sunday, Musk reposted a screenshot of the theory, which appears to have been conceived on 4chan in 2021. Dude, this story, yeah, here's the thing, right? People who can't defend themselves physically, women and low-T men, parse information through a consensus filter as a safety mechanism. They literally do not ask, is this true? They ask, will others be okay with me thinking this is true? This makes them very malleable to brute force manufactured consensus. If every screen they look at says the same thing, they will adopt that position because their brain interprets it as everyone in the tribe believing it. Only high T alpha males and aneurotypical people, hey autists, are actually free to parse new information with an objective, is this true filter for decision making. Democratic, but a democracy only for those who are free to think. Because I know that the people who are least susceptible to groupthink are high testosterone men. Right? Oh wait, don't sports exist? XD with the comment, why is Elon discriminating against himself? Content, Elon is 14. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. AK writes, but you realize Hamas's surrender would mean no more Palestinian civilians dying? What? No, bro. Full stop. Full stop. You realize Hamas's surrender would mean no more Palestinian civilians dying? But I genuinely don't know how to respond to that. Like, if suddenly, let's say, Hamas were to surrender, the genocide would ramp up like you've never seen before. Like, it's an ethnic cleansing. Like, it would become heavily industrialized. More industrialized. Like, that's when you would see the full-blown furnaces. Just like rows and rows and rows of people being marched to gas chambers and furnaces. Like, I just don't know what world you actually live in where you actually think that if the resistance to the Israelis, to the Zionists, surrendered, that suddenly the Zionists would stop. I just don't know what world you live in that makes you believe that that's the case. Like, the Israelis would round people up and bring them to furnaces and incinerate them. Like the Nazis did. Right? That's absolutely crazy. What reasoning or evidence do you have to suggest they want ethnic cleansing, the words that they've said and the actions that they've done? Like, there really just comes a point where you have to observe reality. And there just has to become a point where you have to just look at reality and you have to go, okay, cool. This is real. Like, this is reality. And what the reality is... Dude, wow. Okay. I did not know I was going to have to break this news to somebody today. Like, if you read the ICC case and you see the things that Netanyahu has said, you see the things that his defense minister has said, that the foreign minister has said, that the housing minister has said, that all of his ministers have said, and you see the things that they're doing, and you see how they've acted, and you see how they plan to continue to act, and you see what they're teaching kids in schools, and you see how the culture is responding, and you see how the society is acting, and then you turn around and you actually say outright that like come on, AK. Like, okay. I think that what we're confronting here, AK, and I'm going to be as blunt as I possibly can because I think that's the best policy. Like, I feel like you're something of a regular, so I don't want to be mean to you or rude, but I think that you're grappling with a delusion. I think that you're in a delusional state and you're not actually being honest with yourself. And I think you're not being honest with yourself because it's harder. Right? It's harder to face the reality of the situation. That this comment, in 2020 they were offered a two-state solution. The Palestinians did not like the map, so they refused it. I'm sure that the Palestinians, when they were being assassinated openly by in an open-air concentration camp, you're basically saying, oh, the Israelis said you can stay in the concentration camp and we'll keep all the land that we stole from you. Do you agree? What kind of absurd terms are those? Like, why should they accept that? Like, what kind of ridiculous position is this? They didn't like where the map was drawn? Yeah, of course they didn't like where the map was drawn. They stayed in a concentration camp, which is what Gaza is. Gaza is an open-air concentration camp. Well, it was. Now it's just a graveyard. Like, what you are doing, what you are actually trying to convince me of, is that the people in the Warsaw ghettos were actually the problem. You know, if the Jews had just given up, the ethnic cleansing would have stopped. It's just delusional. And the reason why you're being delusional about it is because it's way harder to acknowledge the truth. The truth is that the Israelis are ethnically cleansing Israel. How do we know? They've always said so. and everything they've ever done has shown you that's the case. The Nakba, Ben Gurion himself outright saying that was the intention. Like, the evidence is overwhelming. And so the question that you have to really significantly start asking yourself is, why are you acting so delusionally? Like, do you acknowledge, this is from AK, do you acknowledge the possibility that it is instead you that's living in an illusion and not me? Does your consciousness not consider that a possibility? Or are you 100% on this? The trouble, AK, is that I have evidence. I just have overwhelming evidence, and you have nothing. Like, that's the problem. Like, 1 + 1, in fact, does equal 2. Like, that's the problem. Like, if you want to actually support your case, then you need evidence. So, what if I was looking at the situation in Israel, and I was trying to figure out what was going on in Israel? Well, I'm going to begin by, okay, what have leaders said of this? What was said? What evidence exists? And if you look at the founding leader, the person who founded Israel, Ben Gurion, he said of this conflict that we are here to ethnically cleanse these lands, that the Palestinians are right to fight against us. It is our goal to displace them. That is a quote that he said. So that leads me to believe, as someone who cares very deeply about evidence in their decision making, to believe that the plan that the Israelis always had was to commit an ethnic cleansing there. Why? Because they said so. Because they said so. And then not only did they say so, they went forward and committed a series of atrocities that lead me to believe that they are serious. The Nakba is a good one to point to, where they displaced 750,000 Palestinians, pushed them into the West Bank, pushed them into Gaza. And now, in the modern day, so what evidence do we have that they're planning to continue Ben Gurion's stated agenda and their stated policies? AK writes, but it just seems so strange that every single self-proclaimed communist happens to be pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel. It's not strange at all. Communism is a historical material dialectic. That means that we care about evidence. And if every single person who bases their philosophy on the idea that evidence should take precedent is coming to the same conclusion, that should tell you something. That should tell you something. Oh goodness, whenever I go anywhere and there's disconnected people, they all call themselves communists, and they are all continuously coming to the same conclusion. That should tell you something. That the people who care about evidence are continuously coming to the same conclusion. Why? Because we care about evidence. That if the evidence was on your side, then I would be talking the way you talk. But it's not. Not even remotely close. June also writes, I mean, there are Zionists who claim to be communists, and there is a communist party in Israel. Yeah. Yeah, Isaac, that's what they're doing right now. Like, for goodness sakes, like... It's just... AK, come on, man. Communism as an ideology is not based off evidence, it's based off theory. Nope. Like the entire backbone of Marxist thought, it begins with Hegel, right? Hegelian. And then, of course, he's influenced by Adam Smith, Ricard, right? Amongst others. But the base bone of it is the concept of a historical material dialectic, right? This historical material dialectic is a fancy way of saying we care about what happened and we care about what the evidence is. That's what we care about. And that's the foundation of the entire field of thought. There is theory within communism. There are ideas within communism. So, for example, that the means of production is the center of power in society is a theory. But that theory is based off of evidence, which is the foundation of Marxist thought and communist thought. And to think otherwise is to simply acknowledge you don't know what you're talking about. Which is fine. I think it's good for people to acknowledge that they don't know what they're talking about. That means that you understand how evidence works. You understand, okay, I have not actually been basing my thinking on evidence. And that's good. It's a good place to come to. That's a good place to get to. It's good to recognize that I do care about evidence. I do care about what is real and what happened. I do care about what my eyes can see and what my hands can touch. I do care about what leaders of countries actually said and then what they did. And just straight up, if you're going to say that communism is not based on evidence, then you just don't understand what communism is. Just as nakedly as it can be. If you'd like to understand what communism actually is, then I recommend listening to what communists actually say about it. And what Marx said about it, what Hegel said. Like, that's the backbone of it. And like a guy like Engels, right? Yeah, Isaac, right? They have talked about the Amalek theory, which is to exterminate the Palestinians. Yeah, it's just naked. Like, that's the thing. That's the reason why. Like, it's just so naked now. Like, the ICC report. I really highly recommend people read the ICC report. It's just damning. It's just damning. Like, we've got more evidence of this genocide than we had of Hitler's intention to do the Holocaust, for Christ's sakes. Like, we've got an overwhelming amount of evidence. The fucking, this genocide has been live streamed. There's just an overwhelming amount of evidence. And so to pretend like it's not happening, whoosh. The people behind Hamas are very evil people. Okay, are they? For doing what? Fighting back? Is fighting back evil to you? Is it wrong for people to defend themselves against a settler colonial project? There's overwhelming evidence to suggest the Kremlin is an evil, that the Tehran theocrats are brutal evil, the people behind October 7th attacking civilians and women and children as hostages in the night. AK, you've just chosen a side. That's all you've done. Like, you've just decided that white is right and that the West is right. Daddy knows best. Like, that's all this is. Right? There's no genuine attempt to understand what is happening. Just the West is doing it, so it's good to do. That's all. Right? Even though there's just literally no evidence to suggest that's the case. Is the ICC report easy to find? ICC case against Palestine papers. From PBS. Read the full application bringing genocide charges against Israel at UN top court. Read the full application. Here it is. It's 84 pages. Just going to pick something at random. Israeli Minister of Agriculture on the 11th of November 2023, Avi Ditcher, in a television interview, recalled the Nakba of 1948, in which over 80% of the Palestinian population of the new Israeli state was forced from or fled their homes, stating that we are now actually rolling out the Gaza Nakba. Literally me just picking something at random. Page 62. Let's go up. Page 41.64. Israel has now pushed the Palestinian population in Gaza to the brink of famine, with international agencies warning that the risk of famine is real. That's from the World Food Program, or WFP, and that it is increasing each day. Most of the Palestinian people in Gaza are now starving, with levels of starvation rising daily. The World Health Organization warns that hunger is ravaging Gaza. As the United Nations Security Secretary General has stated, 4 out of 5 of the hungriest people anywhere in the world are in Gaza, with Palestinians in Gaza facing the highest levels of acute food insecurity ever classified by the IPC. UNRWA's Commissioner General describes desperate, hungry, and terrified people who are now stopping aid trucks, taking the food and eating it right away. The World Health Organization has stated that an unprecedented 93% of the population in Gaza is facing crisis levels of hunger, with insufficient food and high levels of malnutrition, etc. On it goes. AK's over here on Twitch. Corporal Fly says, I'm all anti-Zionists, but do see Hamas as a terrorist organization. Yeah, how dare they fight back, right? So when you watch Star Wars, you really root against Luke Skywalker, right? Well, he's just negotiate, right? So, Joe Anthony, the ICC report is incredibly easy to find. I literally did South African ICC case against Palestine paper, pbs.org, first link. Didn't have to do any digging at all. Literally first link, clicked on that, comes up, literally read the full application, click on that, there it is. Could not be easier to find. Like... AK writes, you guys need to listen to this. Yeah, but there is overwhelming evidence of evil on your side too, is there? Like, fighting back isn't evil, right? Like, if you point at every time the Palestinians fought back and say that's evil, then you can pretend, if you like. Like, it's sort of odd that people who are all about Israel has a right to defend themselves don't seem to extend that to the Palestinians. Because they're not really human to you. That's the truth. Like, they're not really human. Right? They're just non-human entities. They're just a problem, right, for you to ethnically cleanse. Which is why you're doing this kind of ethnic cleansing apologetics. Right? Like, I'm pretty happy to say at this point, AK, you're committing to genocide apologetics. Pretty nakedly. I don't really keep people like that around for very long. Just so you know. Because, like, it's gross. Like, it's just super gross. And what's really gross about what you're doing is it really is like you're looking at the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto saying they should just surrender. Like, do you think the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto should have surrendered? Like, I'm not asking that rhetorically. I'm being honest. Like, I'm actually asking that question to you sincerely. Do you think the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, while they were being ethnically cleansed by the Nazis, should have just given up? Or do you think they should have fought back? And do you think that they were terrorists for fighting back? Yeah, I'm kind of with you on this, Cotton, but, you know, that's why I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. That's why I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. AK, I asked you a straight question. Do you think the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto should have just gone silently and quietly? Because it's the exact same situation. Like, and comments like this, you think the Ottomans or the Tsarins would have acted more civilly in a similar scenario? Like, is this just racial purity baiting? Like, what is this? That the Israelis are just racially more pure? Is that what this is? It's just like very strange. It's a very strange and unusual conversation to be having today. Just not what I expected to be talking about today. Like, it just feels very... Like, this all feels very white supremacist. AK says, I'm just saying US and Israel are Girl Scouts compared to other powerful empires throughout history. What a fucking joke. What a fucking joke. Okay, let's do it. The United States founds itself by committing a genocide throughout the United States. They literally destroy dozens of cultures and nations, right? Ethnically cleanse them and create a new state called the United States, right? While they're ethnically cleansing the land of the First Nations people, they're also enslaving the African continent, with the help of the Europeans, of course. As they enslave the African continent and bring slaves over to the United States to enact a genocide and to build the infrastructure afterwards, right? Eventually, the slavery that exists in the United States is so reprehensible and so disgraceful and so disgusting that the United States tears itself apart fighting a civil war over it. Right? Like, I don't know why you're pretending like this isn't real. Why this didn't happen. Let's jump ahead to just, like, World War II. The only country to ever drop nuclear bombs on any other country is the United States. Like that's atrocity at the highest possible level. Just dropping nuclear bombs on civilian targets. Twice, no doubt. So I just don't know where you're getting your information from. Like, the Ottoman Empire never did this shit. Never did that shit. It just has a real, like, white supremacist sort of vibe to it. Oh, okay, I get it. So because there were other evil empires, then we're cool. Nope. I'm just saying other empires in the same position would have done worse. This is literally just genocide apologetics. Somebody else would have done worse than us, so we're actually okay. Like, I don't care about your point. Like, even if it was true. Let's pretend like it was true. I still don't care. You understand? Like, I still don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck at all if Genghis Khan would have been meaner about it. I don't care. It's in fact a stupid point to make. Because it doesn't actually change anything or excuse anything. We're still committing a genocide. We're still funding it. We're still enacting it. We're still doing it. The people you demonize who fight back against it are doing so because they're experiencing a genocide. And just because Genghis Khan would have been meaner about it doesn't mean fucking anything. It's the weakest shit of my fucking life. It's just silly. Like, it's desperate, is what it is. It's desperate. It just smacks of desperation of a person who's doing everything they possibly can to hold on to the idea that somehow their country is good, and it isn't. Yeah, I'm with you here, Cotton. No, I think... I know, Cotton, that's what's upsetting me, I have to say, that you're not mad. That's very disturbing to me. I think that it's just hard. That's all. Like, I think that it's just hard. I think it's hard for people to grip onto this and to come out the other side. Sybin writes, "I'm surprised John hasn't banned you yet. AK's a regular, and so I feel like, in some way, I feel like AK has finally now decided that now's the time. Let's lay this all out, and we're going through it, and here we are, going through it. I don't think AK is being dismissive or hurtful towards me or hateful. I think that just like now's the moment, and I mean I think that AK is making himself very vulnerable, and because he knows, he's seen it, and in a way I feel somewhat blessed to go through this, because it's hard. It's hard. You want to believe that your country is good. You want to believe that what we're doing in the world is the right thing to do. People want to believe that. It's innate. It's normal. It's completely natural. It's part of life. It's part of it. That a big part, to use an analogy, right? And not to be dismissive. I know this can come off as somewhat dismissive, but it is a good analogy. Like when a child is growing up, their parents are immutable. Their parents are impossible to defeat. Their parents are gods. Like when you're a child, your parents are kings and queens and gods, and what they say goes, and they can terrify you with a look. And you respect them because they are the creators. They spawned you into reality, and you are their prodigy, and here you are. And part of the process of growing up is going through the painful realization that your parents are just people. Right? Sometimes people go the other direction, and they think, oh, my parents are supernaturally evil, and they're narcissists, and they have these qualities or that quality. And then as you go on, you kind of just settle back off of that, and you go, nah, they're just a pair of dweebs, really. They're just a pair of people. They're just a set of clowns like the rest of us. And people go through a similar process with their town and with their state and with their nation, I think. That the same process of growing up to come to see your parents as just people who are trying their best in a madhouse world, well, that same kind of thing happens to countries. And that it's difficult. It's difficult for people to come to terms with the idea that the country that they are living in isn't good. Isn't even really trying to be good. If I wanted to be charitable to the position that the United States finds itself in, if I wanted to be charitable, I would say that what the United States is primarily deeply confused. That it's been running on false theories of how the world operates, and it's been running on false ideas about how things actually are. And those false ideas and false thoughts have finally fallen prey to their inherent contradictions. And those contradictions lead to intense, insane violence. That when people say things in the United States like, no, the pursuit of profit, everyone should be a self-interested actor in the pursuit of profit in a free market system. There are people who say that and believe it, and genuinely believe it. AK, I gotta tell you, like this kind of comment, right? In a way, we are the country that gave the world sovereignty. I don't think so, my man. Like, I don't really think so. Like, the United States is an offshoot of Europe. It's an offshoot of the empires of Europe. And incidentally, so is much of South America as well. That the Incas and the Aztecs and the Mayans and all those groups that were down there were just obliterated. Completely obliterated. And like, I don't know how the United States could grant anybody any kind of sovereignty. I just don't even think, how is that even possible? How could that possibly even be the case? Like, I would argue that the Bolsheviks did more to grant sovereignty in Russia than the United States did, and that the Maoists did more in China than the United States did. Right? And what sovereignty did any European nation or the United States grant any country in Africa? Like, so when the United States was carpet bombing the Middle East for the last 40 years, were those sovereignty bombs? Just like the British Empire wanted to colonize, but America wanted to grant sovereignty instead. Oh boy, my man. Oh boy, my man. My man, my man, my man, my man. Oh dear. Oh dear. Isaac writes, they're fighting against the countries declaring sovereignty. Like, the United States is a settler colonial project. Like, did they grant the Anishinaabe sovereignty? The Cherokee? The Muskie? The Cree? The Wampanoag? Who did they grant sovereignty to? At what point during this ethnic cleansing, where they round people up and put them into reserve systems that persist to this very day, were they granting sovereignty? Who did they grant sovereignty to? I think that's the question I'd like to see answered. Who did they grant sovereignty to? Was it just themselves? While they ethnically cleansed the United States and had slaves build it. So, was it them? Like the founding fathers and the white people that worked with them? Is that the sovereignty building we're talking about? This sounds a lot... AK writes, Japan could have been a colony of the U.S. Japan is a colony of the United States. It's a vassal. I wouldn't say a colony, but it's a vassal. Europe could have all belonged to the U.S. Heck, there was a point they could have taken over the world but didn't. I don't think any country can quote-unquote take over the world. I just don't think that's legitimate. And, like, Japan is 100% a vassal of the United States, as is Europe. Like, what do you think NATO is? Like, for real, like, what do you think NATO is? Like, Europe is owned by the United States. Japan is owned by the United States. Like, they can kind of do what they want. Canada is 100% a vassal of the United States. That these countries are economically dominated by the United States through organizations like the World Trade, the World Bank, right? Like, this is what they're talking about when they talk about the international community. Like, when the United States talks about the international community, it's talking about itself and its vassals. And that Japan, South Korea, Australia, most of Europe, the NATO countries, Canada, are all vassals of the United States. And the United States asserts its dominance over these countries through international trade deals and international alliances and international institutions. When CH writes, IMF controls even the United States, it's not like presidents can defy it. Capitalism is absolutely autonomous evil now. I think that's an interesting theory, CH, that capitalism as a force sort of exists now internationally and in institutions, like the World Bank, the World Health Organization, like these sort of international organizations. And so the system of capital is no longer national. It's like supranational. It exists above the nation-state system, and it has its own power and its own energy, and it parasticizes the nations and the productive capacity of the nations. I think that's an interesting theory and definitely worth exploring more. Because, I mean, like, figures like Bill Gates, for example, like, sort of exists beyond the scope of simple power of the United States, right? Japan is a thriving sovereign country of its own with no military. Wonder why. Nilo writes, vassal in all but name, Viabin, or sovereign in name only, or Sino countries. June writes, socialist in name only. Just kidding, yeah. Like, Japan cannot do anything without the United States say so. In the conflict that's happening with China, Japan is an ally and must be an ally. That if Japan were to suddenly start talking a game of, hey, maybe we should increase trade negotiations, maybe it isn't a bad idea to start getting friendly with China, the Americans would have something to say about that. They would be very forceful. Like, what's going on between China and India has America extremely concerned. That China and India are buddying up. And that is against the interests of the United States, for sure. Nicewell, I think everybody's trying to figure it out. That's all. I think everybody's trying to figure it out. And like, I have to voice and admit, several people have voiced it. I think the thing that everybody's surprised at is that you're a regular. You're here all the time. You listen to me talk a lot, right? And now, all of a sudden, a lot of this talk is coming out of you, and it's surprising. And like, we're pretty anti-capitalist over here. And we're pretty anti-America over here, right? Like, I am against the concept of capitalism existing in my country of Canada, and it's been pretty clear. Like, the United States is a settler colonial state. That, like, why doesn't it just dominate through military force? So, like, you talk about Japan. Like, Japan is an independent sovereign nation, you say. Japan had 2 nuclear bombs dropped on it. Like, within living memory. Like, what, you think Japan's all of a sudden going to turn against America? No. Like, no. The Americans blew Japan into submission. They destroyed Japan. They've completely defanged Japan. Japan has no military power. It's not permitted to have military power. It's not allowed to militarize. Right? And the Americans have made it very clear that if you start to militarize, we will just come in there and blow you up again. Japan exists completely as a vassal of the United States. And it always has since World War II. And how did it get to be that way? Because the United States dropped 2 nuclear bombs on it. Like, this idea that Japan is operating as like an independent sovereign state, and that the United States granted Japan its sovereignty after what? Dropping 2 nukes on it? When did Genghis Khan nuke anybody? Like, you can talk about like the brutality of past empire till your head falls off. Like, yeah, sorry that using a sword isn't as clean as dropping a bomb. But like, this pretending is just very odd. Japan is a vassal of the United States because they were bombed into submission. Their cities were turned to rubble, and they got 2 nuclear bombs dropped on them as a cherry on the cake. And when you actually read the documents that come out of the Truman administration, you find out that they didn't even need to drop those nukes. That the Japanese were already in surrender talks. That they dropped those nukes on Japan to show the Chinese and the Russians that they'd do it. Isaac says the Japanese economy was thriving in the 80s and the US blew it up out of the water by banning imports and never recovered ever since. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of American exceptionalism happening here. The idea that Japan is whining about it is totally false, though. And by the way, if Genghis Khan had the weaponry of America, he would use it tenfold on Japan. I mean, not if he was wise. Like, Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan was actually like a wise general. Like, he actually knew how to do it. Like, you want to win a war without firing a shot. That's how you actually win a war. Like, that's the whole goal. Like, Dwight D. Eisenhower was actually a really good general. Because he managed to get out of China a lot of concessions by simply rattling the saber. Drop the nukes on Japan, right? Just a nuclear holocaust. Invade South Korea, right? The whole Korean War conflict happens. While that conflict is happening, Dwight D. Eisenhower is saying the Chinese better cooperate with us or we'll drop a nuke on them. Right? During the Vietnam War, Nixon did the same thing. Threatened to drop a nuke on China. So there's this constant saber rattling that was happening with the nuclear bomb. It's called nuclear blackmail. Right? And it basically leads the Chinese into a position of capitulation. Because they don't want to get nuked. And the Americans might do it. They did it to Japan. Twice. So, I mean, I just feel like it's interesting that you're using like Genghis Khan, but like I just feel like you've created like a cartoon version of who these people were, right? Like I just think there's just like a lot of cartoon thinking happening, and that like you're not actually being serious about. Like, you're trying to maintain this desire for, no, America is still, we're still, if I can find someone who is worse than us, then we are still good. Like, I can feel how you're thinking. I can sense how you're thinking. That if you can find someone worse, then we are actually an improvement from that. And if we are an improvement from that, then we are actually better and we are on the path and the arc of reality bends towards justice and all of this. And sure, we've done things wrong, but boy, we've been trying. Right? It's just sort of not real. It's just not the case. Like, it's like the United States, uh, uh, like, pick a year. And the United States is just doing something fucked. AK writes, I can confidently say that we are more righteous than almost every other empire throughout history. Like, I would happily say that we're probably the same. We have more technology. Our technology is different. Our processes, the way we do things, right? Like, we don't need to publicly crucify people. We haven't gotten there yet. We will, but we're not there yet. And that's because the bread and circuses is still working, right? That the digital hallucinations are still working. Not enough of the public has become bored of them or has become disillusioned by them. Not enough people are recognizing that this is all for children and that there's nothing real happening there. But I'm more or less like, if Julius Caesar was in the United States, it'd basically be the same stuff. And like, if Genghis Khan was in the United States, it'd be the same stuff. It's the same ideas, it's the same thoughts, right? It's just parody there. And so the question is, how do we stop it? How do we break that? How do we make it so that this murderous cycle finishes itself? And like, I'll even throw you a bone and be like, yeah, of course there have been brutal empires throughout history. Like, the Aztecs are crazy. The Aztec Empire is just nuts. Like, total, complete, like, straight up human sacrifice. Like, obviously, parasticizing several other cultures. Just wild stuff happened in the Aztec Empire for sure. But like, that's a civilization that grew from thousands of years of development and became that way. The United States has been around for what, 150 years? Like, we're just getting started, baby. We've already exterminated entire civilizations, enslaved an entire continent, dropped nuclear bombs on people. Right? We're just getting started. We're just babies. Right? Like the Roman Empire, when it was at its apex, you know, in its like literal like 1,000-year history, at its apex it was crucifying people in public. We're 150 years old, baby. Like, I don't think you should be so confident. Nilo writes, I'm thinking recently that China's turning to the West and opening up to capitalism had everything to do with the Sino-Soviet split and China's inability to take on the U.S. military at the time. So the Sino-Soviet split happened because Joseph Stalin died. Right? Joseph Stalin and Mao's relationship was very good. They had a very tight relationship, and that Joseph Stalin was doing everything he could to support Mao's revolution, because he saw Mao's revolution and the Bolshevik revolution as he saw that they had parity with one another, and that there was a lot of similarity there. So Joseph Stalin died, and Khrushchev immediately starts denouncing Stalin, right? Khrushchev does the secret speech, straight up just denounces Stalin. You can read all about this in Grover Furr's book, Khrushchev Lied, where he goes through all of Khrushchev's claim, and it's like, he lied. Like, it's just not true. And it's Khrushchev that begins the process of appeasement and capitulation to the West. That he pivots away from Joseph Stalin's position And this is what begins the Sino-Soviet divide. That Mao denounces Khrushchev and calls him an appeaser and calls him a revisionist and calls him all of these things because Khrushchev pivots away from Stalin's position towards a position of Western appeasement. This ends up forcing Mao and then inevitably Deng's hand towards what's called Dengism, and towards a pattern and towards a position of capitalist appeasement, because China simply would not be able to survive if it maintained its posture of aggression against a United States and a Russia that had allied. That was the big concern, that Mao and Deng and the communists were concerned that the Russians and the Americans would ally, and then that would mean that the Vietnam War would be lost, right? That would mean that all of this aggression that the United States is giving at China, like China was receiving a good amount of support. In fact, during that period of time, during the Vietnam War, that was largely, here in the West, that was largely discussed as a proxy war between the United States and Russia. And that China and Vietnam were sort of secondary or tertiary partners in that larger global conflict. And so I think that what really forces China's hand is Khrushchev's turn away from Stalin and Khrushchev's turn towards the West. And it just ends up being that China did it better. China offered the West more. China gave the West more opportunities. And China was able to position itself better. And I think they were able to position themselves better because the Chinese communists were smarter and more well-read, and they understood the subject better. Like you read Mao and you read Deng, and you listen to what these guys were talking about, and you see what the Chinese communists were all about during that period of time, and then forward, and you're just like, yeah, these guys understood the subject. Khrushchev did not understand the subject. Khrushchev was just some bureaucrat who found himself in the position, right? But I think it would be fair to say that Khrushchev did have socialist ideals. I think that's fair. That Khrushchev wanted the best for his own people. I think that's also fair, and I think there's an argument to be made. Like, I don't want to demonize Khrushchev, even though the guy was, like, kind of an asshole. But but I think when it comes down to, like, understanding the subject of economics and the subject of Marxism from the economic position, the Chinese communists had it, and the Russians didn't. And so the Chinese communists were able to do things that seemed outrageous to the West and outrageous even to the communists, and have people denouncing them and, oh my God, it's so crazy, and what are you doing? Well, look at them now. How did it happen? It happened because the Chinese understood what they were doing. That when the Americans said, what we want to do is ship you the means of production so that you'll do the work for us, and that'll reduce our labor costs and we'll make more money, the Chinese understood, oh, you're going to give us the means of production. We're going to have manufacturing in China like we've never had before. Oh, we're going to get rich and powerful. Deng said so. And they did. And so, but that all begins because Stalin died and Khrushchev turned the corner and created the Sino-Soviet split, what became known as the Sino-Soviet split. And now relations are beginning to normalize. And they had begun the process of normalization throughout the 80s and 90s. But like now I think Russia is looking at China being like, bro, dude, how do we get some of this? Like, look at what China's doing. It's outrageous what they're doing. And it is outrageous what they're doing. Like, what China's doing is absolutely fucking outrageous. And people don't understand how they're doing it. Because China has been building for decades and decades a foundation. They've been building a foundational floor for themselves with very clear ideas in mind about where they want to end up and where they want to go. And if you want to manufacture and build infrastructure the way that China is building, you need decades of training and education. You need decades of you need entire generations of people to just be fucking on board. And then you end up with this, right? So if Russia or the United States want, or India for that matter, want to begin to get to where China is now, they have to begin that process now, and then in 50 years they'll get there. Just how China did. And by the time they do it, China will be like, because China is now building a foundation for itself for the next phase, right? China built up to essentially where the United States was, to then step to the next tier. And then once they're on that next tier, they're going to build a foundation for themselves to go to the next tier. And it's just going to get faster and faster and faster and faster. Right? And it's especially going to get faster because each generation of Chinese engineer and scientist and politician is actually standing on the shoulders of the person that preceded them, and they all had the intention of actually building something. That they're not trying to exclusively make themselves rich. That there's this kind of understanding that exists that says, oh, sure, we'll get rich, but we get rich by building the society and by building the culture and by building the thing. Right? That the richness isn't the end goal. That there's this other thing that we're focusing on. Whereas in the United States, the goal is the profit motive. Right? Like this is what Deng proved. Deng proved that the American theory of economics was flawed, and it was wrong. And the American theory of economics is the profit motive, like individuals pursuing their own interest in a free market system, with the goal of accumulating as much money for themselves as possible, the profit motive. Well, what do you end up with if you structure your society that way? You end up with a handful of narcissists clinging on to as much power and money and wealth for themselves while sucking the entire country dry. No infrastructure gets built. In fact, they find new and unique ways to destroy infrastructure projects and siphon as much wealth away from those projects for themselves as they can. And if they do spend money, it's only to gain access to media systems. Like, for God's sakes, Elon Musk owns Twitter. Like, how much more naked do you need it to be? Like, the billionaire class buys up the media system, buys up the infrastructure, buys up everything, and basically drains the country dry, and that's what you end up with. So, what was the Chinese theory? Well, the Chinese theory was that it's whoever owns the means of production. Whoever owns the means of production owns the society. And so what we, as the Communist Party, need to do is ensure that we own the banks, we own the resources, and we'll allow American companies in here, but we'll always be involved in it. And if they want to get anything done, then they have to negotiate with our banks and our resource base. And that's how China has moved forward. And they've shown, oh yeah, okay, if you have an organization that's dedicated to the idea of actually building the means of production and building the productive capacity of the country, that's how you build a civilization. That's how you build a country. Do you end up with billionaires? Sure. Do you end up with rich people? Sure. Right? But you also end up with enormous increases in the prosperity of the nation, enormous increases in infrastructure, enormous increases in social structures. And you end up with those things without having to fight civil wars to get them. That every single time that America has gotten any kind of improvement to the living standards of the workers, it has come through a labor movement that has been militant and has fought for it. People die for it. Whereas in China, those improvements happen because the rulers of the country look around and say, this is going to do it, and we can do it. We have the resources, and we should. The people want it. Like, the United States is not going to get a healthcare system unless people pick up guns and shoot people for it. China's going to get a healthcare system because eventually they'll look around and be like, this is just more efficient, and we've got all the pieces in place, so let's pull this. And that's how it's going to go. Content. This experience with AK is like watching an ultramarine fall to chaos. Heresy. Warhammer 40K explains everything, really. I should change the format of this show, and I should use a coded language and have like a different map, but it represents all the same stuff, and instead I'm just like, the God Emperor attacked the Tyranids over here. Don't you understand, you fool? That is why. I could like be wearing the power armor. Don't you understand, you fool, that you are speaking heresy against the Emperor? And the Emperor would be Marx. Revisionism! I think that would be very popular. I think that people would like that a lot. Oh, please do not start discussing the positives of monarchy. No thanks. No thanks. No thanks. Don't want to discuss monarchies. Like, look at what these twerps are doing, you guys. Like, look at what these twerps are doing. We got to circle back around to these twerps. High status males. The theory, written by an anonymous user, suggests that the only people able to think freely are high testosterone alpha males and aneurotypical people, and that these high status males should run a republic that is only for those who are free to think. People who can't defend themselves physically, women and low-T men, parse information through a consensus filter as a safety mechanism, the post reads. Dude. Like, theories like this, which promote hegemonic masculinity, are often criticized for being sexist, exclusionary, not realistic, and toxic. They are popular in alt-right communities. Yeah, dude, like, my thing about this whole, like, high-status men should run the country is just like, yeah, dude, because high-status men have never fallen for cult-like behavior. Like, testosterone-filled men have never, ever, in the history of mankind, ever formed any kind of kooky, weird little cult and done some crazy shit. That's not an observable thing that we can currently see today. All the decisions that testosterone-filled men make are absolutely the best. Interesting observation, Musk said in response to the post. The screenshot of the theory was uploaded to X by an account called Autism Capital, which often posts memes that appeal to right-wing individuals and support Musk's endeavors. It claimed the theory was also known as the Reich effect, seemingly a reference to Robert Reich, the former Secretary of Labor, who wrote an op-ed in The Guardian last week claiming that Musk is out of control and needs to be stopped. It sounds accurate. Much of the account's Sunday content was targeted at mocking Reich while defending the billionaire. It is unclear if Musk reposted the theory because he agreed with it or because it criticized Reich. It's not unlike Musk to dabble in controversial theories and misleading information on his social media platform. The SpaceX founder often takes the stance that controversial and sometimes offensive posts on X are part of quote-unquote free speech and should be allowed on the platform, even when it includes false or misleading information. That is, in part, why X was blocked in Brazil on Friday. Musk refused to comply with a legal order in a long-running battle that ignited after the social media site failed to block accounts accused of spreading fake news. The Independent has asked X and Musk for further comments on his repost. Superballer Brazil banning X. Good for them. Get completely wrecked. Yep. CIA drone pilot. Yep. Common Brazil W. AK saying Common Brazil L. So why should Brazil allow a billionaire to spew false information into their country? There's the question, AK. Can you answer that for me? Why should Brazil allow a billionaire to spread false information into their country? Freedom of speech, freedom of opinion. Yeah, you don't have a religious ideology there at all. Capitalism's not a religious ideology at all, you guys. That's not worship, right? That's not chaos worship, certainly. Yeah, AK does the religious argument, right? True and false can be subjective in many cases, right and wrong. Sure, yeah, that's definitely true. But then there's also just like things that are true, right? And like, I don't really understand why a billionaire should be in charge of Twitter. Like that's the part about it that I think is most suspect. Like, one guy has control of a media apparatus that has all this power to disseminate all this information. I just think that by itself should be banned. Like, one guy should not be able to speak for 4 billion people. Or 20 billion people. Right? Or 200 million people. It's just not a thing. Right? It's just not real. Right? Like, I don't know why we should bend the knee to Musk. And allow Elon Musk to spread information around freely. Like, I don't know why free speech, all this, like, because this isn't actually free speech, right? This isn't actually a free speech issue. Like, once you stop thinking about it religiously, and you start actually thinking about it for what it is, like, free speech is 3 guys in a room voicing their opinions to each other, saying, well, this is what I think. This is what I think. Okay, cool. I disagree. I might even think that's repugnant and ridiculous. Okay, but you have the freedom to say that. Fine. Right? So let's expand it just a little bit. Freedom of speech is 100 people in a space doing that with one another. And we have that, and that's fine. Freedom of speech is not one person on a podium over top of everybody with a giant megaphone screaming so loudly that no one else's voice can be heard. That's not freedom of speech. Elon Musk spewing his bullshit on Twitter is not free speech. He should not be permitted to do it. Full stop. One guy with a microphone screaming so loudly and taking up so much oxygen in the conversation that no one else can be heard, it's not free speech. Has nothing to do with free speech. And this sort of retreat into religious ideology that happens with people, where they say, no, anything should be permitted and there should be absolutely no restrictions whatsoever on any kind of thing as long as it's the words coming out of my mouth. It's a religious ideology and it's nothing else. Because it's what Elon Musk is doing is not free speech. It has nothing to do with free speech. He's just talking over everybody because he has $44 billion to spend. Like, these people should not be this prominent in the conversation. They're not that important. They're certainly not that intelligent. And the things they say are very stupid. Moreover, when it comes to someone like Musk, like Elon Musk is a national security threat to Brazil. Elon Musk is a national security threat to any nation. Like, if your argument actually is, because of your religious position of free speech, that Elon Musk should be able to go into a country and foment an opposition movement against a government and then fund a coup, which he has actually openly said that he does, this is a direct quote from Elon Musk, "We'll coup who we want." He said that in regards to Bolivia, when they attempted to coup the Bolivian government. And failed, because Elon Musk fails at everything he does. So, if I'm the leader of a nation, I'm 100% treating Elon Musk like a national security threat. 100%. You would be absolutely insane not to. There's absolutely no reason to allow one billionaire to spew lies and misinformation into the society in an attempt to coup your government. Because of your religious position that people should have quote-unquote free speech, which is just detached from reality at the highest level, which is why I call it a religious position. Has nothing to do with reality. Not observed reality. And all you're doing is just re-quoting your religious position. Yeah, Elon Musk has the right to opinion just like all of us. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm disagreeing with the idea that he should have a $44 billion platform to fill the entire room with it. Like, if you and a friend were having a conversation and I walked in with a speaker and a loudspeaker and started screaming at the top of my lungs, would you accept that? Is that free speech? I have the freedom to do that. I walk into your house and just start screaming at the top of my lungs whatever I want to say. Just microphone right against your ear. Is that... And then if you tried to stop me, I'd be like, free speech. That's what you sound like. It has nothing to do with the issue of free speech. It has everything to do with this taking over the conversation. Because what Elon Musk is actually doing is killing free speech. You understand? Elon Musk does not get to destroy any kind of free speech system that exists and then scream over top of us while saying, I have the right to speak. Tough shit. No, you don't. And if I'm the leader of a foreign country that you're trying to coup, I'm certainly not going to let you in here. So I just think you're... I just think you're existing in a religious space. You've just decided that anyone should be able to say anything, anywhere, under any circumstances, at any point, and you've put zero thought into it past that. I think it's a religious ideology that's connected completely to the religious ideology of capitalism. One of the major pillars of the religious ideology of capitalism is the worship of chaos. And this is essentially that. That if I rode into your house, and incidentally, it's funny that you're not actually answering that question. If I came into your house where you were having a group of people and having a conversation, and I screamed at the top of my lungs into a microphone with a speaker, whatever I wanted to scream, and then if you tried to stop me, I said, I have the right to speak, I have free speech. Why do you have a problem with that? What's the problem with that? It's not rhetorical. I'm asking. What's the problem with that? Do you not have a problem with that? Of course it is. It's exactly the same. Elon Musk rolling into Brazil, screaming whatever he wants, wherever he wants, taking over entire media systems. He took over Twitter, for Christ's sakes. Like, that's an entire media apparatus. That's an enormous established media apparatus that millions of people were using, and he took it over. Musk has a larger audience. It's that simple. Yeah, of course Musk has a larger audience. He took over Twitter. So again, if I walked into your house, in this analogy, your house is Brazil, with a speaker and a headset and a million people standing behind me and just started screaming at you at the top of my lungs, whatever I wanted to scream at, would you have a problem with that, and why? Yeah, Isaac writes, X is being used to overthrow governments. Yeah, I mean, like, look, Musk's he has a very famous quote, Musk will coup who we want. Like, this is a very, very famous quote. We will coup whoever we want, Elon Musk, and the overthrow of democracy in Bolivia. Like, Elon Musk should be banned in literally every country for saying that. It's not a free speech issue. It's a national security issue. Like, if a guy walked into my room and said, I'm going to rape your children, I wouldn't let him near my children. And if he said, you just don't like free speech, I would think that he was insane. Like, say what you want, it has consequences. And just because people shut you out because you say crazy shit and are a psychopath doesn't mean it's an affront on your free speech rights. Like, if Elon Musk said, I will throw whoever I want out of whatever house I want, I wouldn't let him close to me. Like, I don't, this religious ideology, this chaos ideology of quote-unquote free speech, chaos, total chaos speech, the most pathetic part about it is that the adherents to the chaos ideology are affronted when there are consequences. Because it's a religious ideology and they're not living in reality. They think that they can literally say anything they want and everybody should just go, oh, well, he said that. Elon Musk should be banned in literally every South American and African country. Period. Full stop. Why? We will coup whoever we want. Get fucked. ICBM Party says, so you're okay with the government banning TikTok then? Because that's what happened in the US. That's a different situation, of course, because it's stupid. Like, it's so ridiculous. It's just anti-Chinese hammering. Like, I don't reach for free speech as a defense because I don't worship chaos the way that capitalists do, right? Banning TikTok is first, like, the reason why they want to ban, let's be clear about why they want to ban TikTok, right? They want to ban TikTok because TikTok successfully showed people the Gazan genocide. And they lost control of the narrative because of it. And so they want to ban TikTok. And they're banning TikTok, or they're pursuing banning TikTok by whipping up xenophobia, anti-Chinese bullshit, returning to the Red Scare McCarthyism, all that kind of dumb shit. But most importantly, I think it would fail. Right? It just wouldn't work. Because the genie's out of the bottle. Right? It's only the most dedicated religious acolytes that still pretend as though there's no Gazan genocide happening. Right? And you can find them. There's like losers like Destiny and people like Ben Shapiro who pretend like there isn't a genocide going on. No, I just acknowledge reality exists. And yeah, of course I'm selective with my censorship, right? So if a person's saying, I like bunnies and I'm going to pat a bunny, I'm not going to censor them. If a person's saying, I'm going to kill your children, I'm going to censor them. Like, you understand how reality works and how evidence works? Like, you understand how to make decisions in the world, right? You understand that there are differences and that things need to be analyzed for what they are as opposed to what your religious ideology tells you. Because you're essentially just a religious acolyte, right? That you've just decided that anything can be said under any circumstances, and that's completely fine. No holds barred, no consequences. I worship chaos. And I don't do that because I think reality exists, and that we should exist in reality and have real conversations about what's real based on evidence. Right? And that's really what divides us. That I believe in evidence and making decisions based on evidence, and you are a religious acolyte for a religious institution you call capitalism. Like, you believe in chaos, which is this free speech conversation we're having, that anyone can say anything, no consequences, it doesn't matter. Money and yourself, and that's what you believe, because you're a capitalist. ICB says, one small issue, the Brazilian government is banning Twitter, not because of Musk. They're banning it because they're currently destroying the Amazon and don't want people talking about it. That's nonsense. The reason why Twitter is actually being banned is because Musk is refusing to put in a legal... there's a legal component that the Brazilians have requested, and he's refusing to do it. And so the court said, well, if you're not going to do it, then we're not going to put a guy in. We're not going to let you have your thing here. Right? It's just the most basic shit. Musk doesn't want to pay a lawyer. Like, that's really what it actually is. Right? And this whole free speech conversation is just sort of superfluous. It's just me dealing with a religious ideology. Because it's like somehow... Like, it's always this way with these frauds, right? Like, these guys always pretend as though what it's about is free speech. It's what Peterson did. It's what Shapiro does. It's what they all do. It's all about free speech. But then you actually look at it and it's literally like, no, bro, just pay a lawyer. Bro, you literally told people to kill themselves on Twitter. Like, go take a seminar. Like, it's fine, bro. But they won't. Because they're religious acolytes to a system of capital. That's the reason they gave, you trust the Brazilian government, more than Elon Musk, certainly. Oh, my sweet summer child. I don't know why I should believe Elon Musk, though. Like, Elon Musk wants to coup the government. Right? And, like, all of this has been stated. Right? Like, these are just the stated things. Like, you're creating a religious ideology in the background. Like, a conspiracy theory might be what you would call it. But, like, there's a legal case. You can look at the legal case. You can see, okay, cool. So there's a judge that wants a lawyer in place to operate in... because they don't simply want Twitter to be chaotic in their country, which makes sense. But why doesn't Elon Musk want that to happen? Because he knows that they're not going to let him say things like, we should coup the Brazilian government. Right? So, again, like... If you'd like to focus on evidence, you should focus on evidence. If you'd like to create a conspiracy theory, I'm not interested. Right? Because I understand you have a religious ideology that you feel you need to adhere to. And I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in your kooky little, strange little theories that are based on nothing. I'm interested in reality and what was said and what exists. So if you could provide evidence to your claim, go ahead. But if you can't, then I'm free to dismiss it. And I will. But honestly, in either case, like, Brazil has every fucking reason to not let Elon Musk in the country. Like, I don't understand this. Like, we will coup whoever we want. This guy should be banned. Like, he should be banned from America. Like, what's stopping him from coupping the Texan government? What's stopping him from cooing the American government? Like, this guy's obviously a threat. And how do we know? Because he says so. Like, this guy should not be allowed to have Twitter. Like, he shouldn't have this media outlet. He should be a kooky guy left alone in a basement somewhere saying, we should coup whoever we want. Okay, buddy. Like, he shouldn't have billions of dollars. He shouldn't have control of the assets he has. Clearly. How do we know? Because he says shit like this. This is unhinged. Like for those who are religiously minded on this issue, which is the capitalists, like, is there a threshold for you? At what point is it stepping over a line? At what point is it unacceptable? Is there a point? Can I go to a toddler and start just screaming at them at the top of my lungs? Is that fine? Is that a normal thing to do? Should that be permitted? Can I round up 100 people and go to an elementary school and start threatening and taunting children in an elementary school? Free speech. Like, where's the... do you have a line? Have you even thought about it? I don't think you have. Because every single time one of these psychopathic, narcissistic, vampiric, ghoulish billionaires says and does something that is utterly unacceptable, that is obviously evil, you immediately jump to your religious ideological position of free speech, which tells me you have put zero thought into this, and you simply don't care to do so. That for you, it's a religious issue, just how, like, life starts at conception is a religious issue, right? It's the same thing. You guys have just taken the position, you have no thought on it, that if anybody closes the door on quote-unquote free speech, no matter what they've done, then the people who are closing the door are in the wrong. So if 50, 40-year-old men approach a group of Girl Guide cookie girls as they're walking down the street and start to pant at them and say, I want to get in there. Yeah. As long as they don't touch them, that's fine, right? Free speech, right? Like, the more you actually think about your religious ideology, the more disgusting it becomes, and the more ridiculous it becomes. And the more unserious you sort of show everybody you actually are. There's already laws against sexual harassment. Oh, that's not sexual harassment, what I just said. That's free speech, right? That's not sexual harassment. I didn't touch her. It's free speech, right? Well, I can say what I want. Right? It's free speech, right? Well, you're saying that it's sexual harassment because I made them feel uncomfortable? Well, that's a slippery slope if I've ever heard one. What's next? You're going to start banning comedians because they say uncomfortable things? Hey, man, I'm just trying to challenge people. The fact that Elon Musk is saying out loud to anyone, for anyone to hear, we will coup whoever we want, means that he should no longer have assets. He should not have Twitter. If he wants to say that shit, he can say that shit at his, like, little country clubs or whatever. He should definitely not be organizing people to overthrow governments. Like, he shouldn't be the CEO of Tesla. He shouldn't be any of this shit. Like, we should depower this guy completely. 100%. Why? Because he wants to overthrow governments. Democracy. Jeff writes, stop being hyperbolic. I'm not being hyperbolic. Elon Musk has said in front of us, we will coup whoever we want. There it is. That's the quote. They literally attempted a coup in Bolivia. That happened. That was an Elon Musk-backed coup. It is not hyperbolic to say so. There it is. Explain to me how this situation is different from the one that I put forward as an analogy to this one. There are laws on the books against overthrowing governments. Free speech, though, right? I think I'm going to end this one here. Although, woke CIA drone pilot says, did you see that video about transphobe Joe Rogan being a semi-closeted trans woman? He said he wanted to be a woman and get fucked by a man. These people are all just repressed losers. Graveyard of Elephants. Joe Rogan on YouTube if you want to find it. I don't know if I want to get into the trans conversation at all. I think really what it comes down to is just people don't know how to grapple with that element of themselves. People don't know. People don't know. Jeff writes, you don't know that in Brazil the majority of people get their news from Twitter because they can't afford newspaper? Even worse. Time to find a new source. Like, oh, so the majority of people are listening to Elon Musk, who wants to overthrow the government. Yeah, red flag. Red flag. Like, this, concerning. Deeply concerning. Time to get a new source. Yeah, I think when it comes to the trans issue, it really, like, I know that when it came to the gay issue, people, okay, Jeff, like, can I be real straight with you, dude? I don't care about this issue that much. Like, I really, really don't. Anytime Elon Musk gets fucked, I'm happy about it. I feel like this guy should have $0 and zero influence, and we should forget who he is. I find it a little weird that you're leaping to this defense of this guy, frankly. A little unusual, a little peculiar, a little strange. Get fucked, Elon Musk. If the United States took Elon Musk and put him in a jail cell and forgot where he was, I'd be happy about it. Like, I don't get this. The guy is a fucking war criminal. He's a psychopath. What the fuck are we doing here? Why do I hate Elon? Because he attempts to overthrow governments and is a psychopath? Pretty nakedly? Like, pretty... How has he committed war crimes, though? On July 24th, 2020, Tesla's Elon Musk wrote on Twitter that a second U.S. government stimulus package is not in the best interest of the people. Someone responded to Musk soon after, you know what wasn't in the best interest of the people? The U.S. government organizing a coup against Evo Morales in Bolivia so you could obtain the lithium there. Musk then wrote, we will coup whoever we want. Deal with it. Musk refers here to the coup against President Evo Morales Aima, who was removed illegally from his office on November 2019. Morales had just won an election for a term that was to have begun in January 2020. Even if there was a challenge against that election, Morales' term should rightfully have continued through November and December of 2019. Instead, the Bolivian military, at the behest of Bolivia's far right and the United States government, threatened Morales. Morales went into exile in Mexico and is now in Argentina. At that time, the evidence of fraud was offered by the far right, and a preliminary report by the Organization of American States Only after Morales was removed from office was there a grudging acknowledgement by the liberal media that there was in fact no evidence of fraud. It was too late for Bolivia, which has been condemned to a dangerous government that has suspended democracy in the country. Lithium coup. Over his 14 years in office, Morales fought to use the wealth of Bolivia for the Bolivian people, who saw, after centuries of oppression, remarkable advances in their basic needs. Literacy rates rose and hunger rates dropped. The use of Bolivia's wealth to advance the interests of the people rather than North American multinational corporations was an abomination to the U.S. Embassy at La Paz, which had egged on the worst elements of the military and the far right to overthrow the government. This is just what happened in November 2019. Musk's admission, however intemperate, is at least honest. His company Tesla has long wanted access at low price to the large lithium deposits in Bolivia. Lithium is a key ingredient for batteries. Earlier this year, Musk and his company revealed that they wanted to build a Tesla factory in Brazil, which would be supplied by lithium from Bolivia. When we wrote about what we called our report, Elon Musk is acting like a neo-conquistador for South America's lithium. Everything we wrote there is condensed in his new tweet. The arrogance towards the political life of other countries, and the greed towards resources that people like Musk think are their entitlement. Musk went on to delete his tweet. He then said, "We get our lithium from Australia. This will not settle the issue since eyebrows are being raised in Australia regarding the environmental damage from lithium mining." Suspension of democracy. After Morales was removed, an insignificant far-right politician named Janine Áñez set aside the constitutional process and seized power. She showed the character of her politics when she signed a presidential decree on November 15, 2019, that gave the military the right to do whatever it wanted. Even her allies found this to be too far and repealed it on November 28th. Arrests and intimidation of activists from the Movement for Socialism, the party of Morales, began in November 2019 and still continue. On July 7, 2020, 7 U.S. senators published a statement that said, "We are increasingly concerned by the growing number of human rights violations and curtailment of civil liberties by the interim government of Bolivia. Without a change in course by the interim government," the senators wrote, "we fear that basic civil rights in Bolivia will be further eroded by the legitimacy of the crucial upcoming elections, will be put at risk. There's no need to worry about that since the government of Áñez seems unwilling to hold an election. By all polls, Áñez looks likely to be defeated in the general elections. A recent poll by El Centro Estratégico Latinoamericano de Geopolítica says that Áñez will get a mere 13.3%, far behind the Movement for Socialism, Luis Arce's 41.9%, and the center-right's Carlos Mesa, 26.8%. The election was supposed to have taken place in May, but was rescheduled for September 6th. It has now been postponed once more, this time to October 18th. Bolivia would not have had an elected government for an entire year. Luis Arce of MAS recently told Oliver Vargas, "We face persecution. We face surveillance. We are facing a very difficult campaign." But he said, "We are sure that we will win these elections, if elections are permitted." The CELAG study shows that 9 out of 10 Bolivians have seen their incomes decline due to the coronavirus recession. Because of this and the attack by this government on the MAS, 65.2% of Bolivians have had negative appraisal of Áñez. It's important to note that due to the positive policies of Morales' MAS, there is widespread support for a socialist orientation. 64.1% of Bolivians support taxes against the rich, and Bolivians in general support the resource socialism of the MAS and Morales. Corona shock and Bolivia. The government of Áñez has been utterly incompetent regarding the coronavirus. The number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the country of 11 million people is 66,456. Since testing is low, the number is likely higher. Musk returns to our story. Earlier this year, on March 31st, Bolivia's Foreign Minister Karen Longarek wrote an obsequious letter to Musk, asking him about the offer of cooperation posted by you regarding ventilators ready to be dispatched to countries where they are needed most. Longarek said, "If it is not possible to send it to Bolivia, we can arrange its receipt in Miami, Florida, and transport them from there as quickly as possible. no such ventilators came. Instead, the government bought ventilators from a Spanish supplier for $27,000 for each of the 170 devices. Bolivian producers said they could supply ventilators for $1,000 per unit. The health minister in the Anaz government, Marcelo Navazas, was arrested for this scandal. Evo Morales read Musk's tweet about the coup in Bolivia and responded. Elon Musk, the owner of the largest electric car company, says about the coup in Bolivia, "We will coup whoever we want." Another proof is that the coup was about Bolivian lithium at the cost of 2 massacres. "We will always defend our resources." The reference to the massacres is important. In November, from Mexico City, Morales watched as the government of Anís let loose the dogs of war against the people of Bolivia from Cochabamba to El Alto. "They are killing my brothers and sisters," Morales said at a press conference. "This is the kind of thing the old military dictatorships used to do. It is the toxic character of the government of Anís, backed fully by the United States government and Elon Musk." Get fucked, Elon Musk. This guy should not have platforms. He should not have Twitter. He should not be the CEO of fucking anything. He should have $0 and should be in a prison cell. People who defend him, get fucked. Fuck you. Yep, the coup government leader, Jeanine Áñez, has subsequently been convicted and jailed for the crime of genocide. Did you see/cover the Israeli general Yitzhak Brick saying that the Zionist entity will collapse within a year unless a ceasefire deal happens? Woxi Drop House says it's pronounced Áñez. Áñez? Is that not what I've been saying? I've been saying Áñez. Áñez. Thank you, Woke. Appreciate that. Áñez. Right, because that's what that N is doing, right? That's what the little... Is that what the I don't know what it's called, the little slash above the N? That's making it an Áñez as opposed to Áñez. Áñez, like that? Yeah, all right. Okay. It's like the N in onion. Okay. The N in onion. Okay. Thanks, bud. I did not see or cover the Israeli general Yitzhak Brick saying that the Zionist entity will collapse within a year unless a ceasefire deal happens. I fucking hope it happens. Like, for real. Fuck these Zionists. Like, they're Nazis. Like, I feel like what I've been doing for this entire stream up until now has been, letting the benefit of the doubt happen and having, like, kind of benefit of the doubt conversations. Okay, that's over now. Fuck these people. Right? Fuck these Nazis. Fuck Elon Musk. I hope bad things happen to all of them. They are fucking evil, and I hope they fucking find the wall. Like, I don't know why I should be playing both sides on this. These people are Nazis, obviously. And anybody who fights back against Nazis are good in my book. Like, oh, they did a bad thing while fighting against Nazis. I can't believe Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star. Oh, won't someone think of the job losses and the stormtroopers? Oh, no. Fuck you. Ugh. I mean, given the pressure that Israel is experiencing, I don't know how, like, they can't get goods out, right? The Americans can't defeat the Yemenis. The Yemenis are shooting on boats that float through. At first, the boats that were coming through, they were trying to negotiate with the Yemenis by saying, hey, we're not carrying Israeli goods, we're not doing any of that kind of stuff. And the Yemenis just opened fire on them anyway. They were just like, don't come through here. Fuck you. It's over. Right? So this whole thing, like, that's the fucking Suez Canal. Right? This is forcing all trade. So, like, really think about what this means. Okay? If Israel wants to get goods from China, the main distributor of goods, It's got to go. Fuel ain't free. Like, fuel ain't free. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you a lot of money to do that shit, as opposed to just like, shoop, and literally just hug the coastline. Right? You don't even need like an ocean boat. You can just get a schooner. You just like hug the coastline, right? And then in it goes. Oy. Or you got to do it all by track or rail, or but to do that, guess what you got to go through? So to do it, you got to go like up, and then like get permission from Russia, and Russia's not going to let it happen. But if they do, then it comes back up. Like the things, it's a fucking major crisis for Israel. They can't get goods. They can get goods obviously from Europe, but like they have no economy. Wolf Blitzer covered like Jerusalem needing to evacuate because it was under fire. Like, they're losing control of the situation. They're losing control of the situation pretty dramatically because everybody around them is just steadily tightening the noose, right? Just tightening the noose. That Israel keeps doing things in the hopes that they will inspire some kind of larger attack, because that's what Israel wants. Israel wants a big conflagration because they feel they can win. A big conflagration, because a big conflagration the United States can actually come in and do something about, right? But Iran and her allies are doing everything they can to make this a death by 1,000 cuts. And just, like, I read an article several months ago now on the stream that Israel's already lost control of the north. Northern settlements are already talking about declaring their independence, breaking off, joining Lebanon, because they just can't control it. And like, eventually there just does come a point where like, do you really want to live this life where like you have just drones flying overhead, just dropping shit on you all the time? Is that really how you want to be? Right? Maybe you should think about surrendering. Maybe you should think about bending the knee, capitulating. But the problem with that idea, of course, is that you're dealing with Nazis, Zionists, right? You're dealing with this religious ideology. And we've seen a lot of religious ideology on the stream today. And we've seen how dangerous it can be and how ridiculous people can be with it. That you can really put yourself and get yourself into really silly positions by hyper-focusing on a religious ideology that has no bearing in reality. And that's Zionism to a T. Yeah, you're better because you're a Zionist. Gotcha. Yep, absolutely. There is such a thing as a superior race, for sure. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This isn't going to lead to total catastrophe every single fucking time. I think that's going to be the end of the stream, though, I think. We're past 9 o'clock. This one was an odd one, I gotta tell you. I'm glad I was here for it. Maybe I'll close out with a song. I opened with a song, I'll close out with a song. It's not too late. If nobody has any requests... Got asked a question by my niece who's 5 years old. What's the world gonna be like when I'm grown? I looked up at the crimson smoke-filled sky. I said, what's the harm in telling one more lie? Everybody's The burning sun won't leave a paper trail. Why work so hard if it's too big to fail? And what's the point in feeding this machine if it won't make the world in our dreams where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets? You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice. And I know one day my maker I will meet, when death's sweet kiss comes to sweep me off my feet. I hope by then we've learned a little more. I'd like this place to be better than before, so everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice. Antarctica is covered in ice. And you know, I still believe that we can do it. I will always believe. I will always believe that we can do it. This place was a garden when we got here. We didn't make it. We didn't create it. We did nothing for this inheritance. The earth wants to be a garden. It made itself that way and gave birth to us. We don't need to invent anything. We don't need to create anything. We don't need to do anything. If we want to be here to see the absolute miracle of the earth healing itself, which it is perfectly capable of doing, then all we have to do is stop. Always remember, guys, you are a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.